Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be another episode of Reforge Gaming, talking about Xbox Game Pass, and is it bad for indies? Some new reports coming out. Contrary to something I have said for a very long time, I actually think Game Pass is a great value. I think Game Pass is very good for indies, but it's looking like that might not be the case, at least not in a universal capacity. So if you like these videos, if you like my opinion pieces, if you like gaming news, hit subscribe and the bell button so that way you don't miss these videos. I try to give you everything right here at the beginning that I'm talking about and reporting about. So this is a Reforge update. Is Game Pass bad for indie games? For a long time now, Xbox Game Pass has been something I have said has great value and is very good for indie games, even though it might not be good for other games like Outriders or big AAA titles on their release day or release month. I have sort of pushed back on that notion, but I've always said they're great for indie games. Reports coming out now that might not be the case. If you like these quick updates, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button, or check me out over on Reforge Gaming, where I stream every day. So I'm going to be pulling from a Vice report. Vice did an interview with the game bakers, the makers of the game Furi. You can see it up here in the corner. It's a really great little game, great little indie title, and they had recently made the announcement that they would be foregoing putting an update on the Xbox. It was featuring new characters, upgraded versions for PlayStation 5 players, and they were also releasing this update on PC, PlayStation 4, 5, and Switch, but it wasn't going to hit the Xbox. Now, obviously, people who own the game on Xbox were like, what on earth is going on? Why are we not getting this update? So they explained why. They said, we have heard all of you who played Furi on Xbox, and we understand your frustration. Reads a series of tweets from the game bakers trying to explain why they skipped Xbox. They said, we're a small indie team, and we could not find the time to budget to make that port. So what exactly happened? Specifically, according to Vice, that game did not catch fire on Xbox, a space where, according to the developer, the best path to success is Game Pass or bust. Now, keep that in mind as we read through some of these other findings. The numbers did not lie, according to the stats here. Furi on Xbox was selling less and less, and according to the developers, they were under a third of the sales on Switch, frequently seen as one of the better places to sell indie games in the larger crapshoot of the marketplace. So Xbox is seen as a great place for indies, and yet it was selling under a third of what the game was selling on the Nintendo Switch. Compounding the issue was an inability to secure future promotions for Furi on Xbox's storefront for increased awareness, and Haven didn't sell at all on Xbox outside of its Game Pass partnership. So they basically were saying, listen, this isn't going to work. We're not making any money, and it just didn't sell really well over there at all. Now, what is Game Pass's focus, and why would they sort of deny a game that previously was on Game Pass any promotion? Here's what the developers had to say. We talked to the team at Xbox to see if there was a way to get some support, but Furi did not align with Game Pass's strategy, focusing on new titles. This is why we took the decision to not bring the DLC to Xbox at launch. The chances the investment was not going to recoup were very high. So the money that they were going to have to budget, they weren't going to recoup it, because Microsoft was like, listen, we're focused on new titles. You're not a new title anymore, so they weren't going to get any of that promotion. Now, what about the money? What exactly is going on whenever you agree to be on? Because they did agree to be on PlayStation Plus as well. So for context, 1/3 of Furi's budget, according to the developers, was paid for by PlayStation Plus partnership with Sony, while 1/4 of Haven's budget was paid for by a Game Pass deal with Microsoft. Both meant the games were briefly free on both platforms. So essentially what they're saying is we got more money from Sony and got less money from Game Pass. Okay, so Game Pass also feels necessary according to the devs. Game Pass is such a fantastic platform for players, so there was a possibility for more Xbox players than ever to be interested in indie games. Unfortunately, without Game Pass, it's very hard for many indie games to be visible on Xbox. So it sounds like it's Game Pass or bust. You simply must be on Game Pass on Xbox if you want to survive. But beyond that, it hurts your sales. Like, they didn't sell as much on the Xbox, which drove them to say, listen, we can't justify the budget for future content of this game. And there's other indie titles we're going to take a look at as well over on Gaming, Reforge Gaming, to discuss this live. If you like this quick update on Reforge updates, hit subscribe and the bell button, and I'll see you in the next one. And I'll see the rest of you right now. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Sorry about the late start. My blood pressure's been great lately, and I could tell it was a little high this morning. Not really sure why. It does that every once in a while when you deal with blood pressure. So I had to ride my bike. That can help. So I rode my bike, took some magnesium, and I feel a little bit better already. So that should help. And so we started a little bit late this morning. I've been trying to be better about starting on time, especially when we're doing simulcasting on TikTok as well as YouTube. Go through your daily rituals of pressing that like button. That way you are able to be here. Yo, good morning, Feed. Good to see you in the chat. I'm curious, though, as I was reading through that report, is the new DLC called Haven? Why did they keep referring to a game called Haven? Is Haven the DLC? Because as I was reading through that, they kept calling it Haven. What is Haven? I don't understand. Haven, a game of two space lovers. Oh, I missed that. Haven shipped across multiple platforms. I completely missed that in the report. We're not going to be able to upload that. Those watching the VOD can get my correction. They were basically analyzing Haven's performance on Xbox, which is what led them to determine what to do with the Furi DLC. East Coast Overlord with a $10 tip. Morning, Lono. As a thought, do you think Microsoft could be interested in porting Game Pass to PlayStation, Nintendo, Linux, Steam Deck as a way to expand their ecosystem? I mean, I definitely think that Microsoft wants their game to be in more places. Like this report compared Furi and Haven's numbers, which drove the decision. So I just misspoke when they decided based on what happened with Haven, what to do with Furi. I just missed that note, so we won't upload that video to updates because I misspoke. I'm going to have to re-record it because I quoted the wrong paragraph there. Because there's two different pie charts that they show, and they're like, Furi didn't sell well, and Haven didn't do well at all either on the Xbox platform. And so, outside of game design, it's not a lot of da-da-da. Haven shipped across many platforms, and the numbers didn't lie. Furi was selling less and less. Okay, so no, I was correct when I said that. Furi was selling less and less. It sold a third on Switch, and then they also took a look at how Haven performed. So the article bounced between the two. Haven wasn't a good game. Yeah, but they still only sold about a third of what they sold on Twitch. So, I'm sorry, Switch. So the Nintendo Switch, they sold more on the Nintendo Switch than the Xbox. And that was the Furi. That was not Haven. Have I been banned? What do you mean, have you been banned? What's it doing? Yeah, mine was acting weird this morning too, Hilly. I had to pop the chat out just to see it. I could not see the chat. I had to pop it out. My last bag of dark roast got to half last night. You know what that means? Oh, my man Fuzzy. Guys, re-up. This reminds me of Spotify. If you're not on Spotify, you won't be noticed, but also nobody will buy your music if you're on Spotify. Right, it's the catch-22. I thought about it. DLC-wise, they can't predict how well it will be received because they can't receive any indication if people that played it liked it or just played it because it was free. Can't like the video. It's weird. Yeah, YouTube's still having some issues. We still can't redirect. R1 domain is still jacked up. They've escalated all of our problems up because we're still having some issues. So, guys, make sure and go through the morning rituals, though. While YouTube's having trouble, we can still smash the like button. You can still consider becoming a member. You can order some coffee, and it looks like somebody already has. Fuzzy grabbed himself 3 bags of dark roast. Who's going to be the first member of the day? We haven't got a membership yet. We already got a coffee order, though. Go through all those rituals. Get us our first 100 likes. I was using Microsoft Edge. It's my own fault. Well, there you go. You're much more likely to play an indie on a portable device than a console on the TV. There are already plenty of non-indies to keep people busy from trying indies, especially not good ones. Well, the article's a little confusing because the article does talk about both Furi and Haven. And ultimately what happened was they decided not to ship DLC for Furi, and it was based on the fact that the game performed very poorly and they couldn't get Xbox to help them. They were basically like, listen, they said right here, compounding the issue was an inability to secure future promotions for Furi on Xbox's storefront for increased awareness, and Haven didn't sell at all on Xbox outside of its Game Pass partnership. So there was two problems here. Haven didn't sell well at all, and Furi could not get any promotional benefit because they were basically like, listen, man, Game Pass is what we want to put stuff on, and we want to put new stuff on there. What do you look like without glasses? I look like how I look like right now, but without glasses. There's nothing on there. It isn't nothing on there. Thanks for everybody watching over on TikTok. We're continuing to push stuff live over there on TikTok every day, and we appreciate you guys that are supporting over there very, very much. Hey, folks. Thanks for being here. Buy some coffee. It's good to be here. It really helps my blood pressure to be with my people. It really does. I'm already feeling better. I was like, man, I could tell that it spiked, and I was like, what the frick is going on? It was weird. Let's see here. Whoops. Let's see here. So many. I got a short I need to put up. So many. Let's see. So many debates surrounding. Which do you think is better? Xbox, Game Pass, and PS Plus, and Shorts. And we have been pushing Shorts live throughout the day sometimes. And the reason that we've been doing that is it doesn't hit your subscription feed. And we have found that the Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, PS Plus, and Shorts. We have found that those Shorts have been doing really well. So if you see those Shorts in your Shorts feed, that is not something that we are pushing to your notifications, okay? So I've got one this morning. It was me sort of debating the differences between Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, which is very, very relevant to this morning. Very, very relevant to this morning. You know, is Game Pass bad for indies? So we're going to hit the shelf with that one. Morning, Lono and chat. Last week of work for a bit. Being between jobs is the only vacation. You don't have to think about anything. There you go. So they're lying when they said more folks on Game Pass buy more. Here's the thing about that statistic, Mo. I don't think that they are lying, but I don't think it necessarily translates into game purchases. Do you understand? I think they're telling the truth, right? I think they're telling the truth, Mo. I think people on Game Pass do tend to spend more. Yeah, Furi got a 77 on Metacritic and a 7.8 from users. It did fine. It's not a bad game. It didn't like underperform, right? It's done well critically. I think the issue is, Suede says, one of my biggest issues with indies is sifting through the shovelware. I'd love some sort of curation, but that's a can of worms in and of itself. Right. People who spend more tend to spend more. Shocker. Right, like, think about the funnel of people who go on Game Pass. They're like, hey, I'm willing to spend extra money to get extra stuff in a given month. Well, of course they're spending more. They already are proving to be a consumer that tends to spend more money. So it doesn't shock me at all that people on Game Pass spend more money. That's not shocking at all. I don't think they're being misleading when they're saying that. The question that I would have is, what is the percentage of conversion for games played on Game Pass into games purchased, right? Have you seen some of the games announced for PS Plus subservice today? No, I saw the announcement, but I didn't see. I thought like AC Valhalla and some others, I think, were on there. Yeah, let's get some likes over there on TikTok. We don't have any likes yet. Would have bought Elden Ring had it been on Game Pass to see if I liked it. Game Pass allows us to try a game to see if we want to buy it. Here's the real challenge for indies, though, Resident. You don't tend to need to buy a game that short. Like, you're using Elden Ring as an example, and I think there's a portion of what you're saying that is correct. Yes, you might try something like that and be like, oh man, this is great, I'm going to buy it. Why? Well, because Elden Ring is a massive game, and you're going to feel a greater need to buy that because it's so large, and so there's so much replayability. You're not going to want to only own Elden Ring on Game Pass. Even then, there's still plenty of people that would have been like, yeah, I did one playthrough, I'm good. There's many people that treat games like that, in that way. And so the worry with an indie title is that you can just play and play and play and play and play and play, play. And then when that happens, you're never, ever, ever forced to buy the game. Ever. You can play to your heart's content in a given month and get a massive amount out of an indie. Like a massive amount out of an indie. Because indie titles, in general, are you really going to go back and replay something like Furi over and over and over and over again? Probably not. You're probably going to play it one time and be good. Unless it's a game like Hades or something, where there's generally this call to keep coming back. Usually I buy the game and then it ends up on Game Pass, so it's pretty much, oh well, says Mo. Elden Ring would not have sold 13.4 million if it was on Game Pass. Right, there would have been a couple million in sales they'd have lost. I don't know how many they probably sold on Xbox. I'd hazard a guess with 13 million in total sales. 3 or 4 million of those, well, maybe not 3 or 4, maybe 2. I bet 2 million or so of those are on Xbox. The largest percentage is probably PlayStation and PC because of the Asian market appeal of From Software games, but here's some other things that I want to read from a report that Eugene found. Eugene, what article is this from? Like what publication? So I can tell people where it's from before I start reading. We got 3 choice quotes from an article. Quotes from devs and excerpts from articles. Oh, from various. Well, shoot. Is there any way? I'd love to source each one as I read them. Here's one. Although Xbox loves to tout how good Game Pass can be for indie developers, some indie devs aren't quite convinced. Several indie devs expressed concern that Game Pass might eventually become so powerful that it forces indie games to release on the platform in order to be seen at all. Right? We got this. So one is from Video Games Chronicle, VGC. That may in fact happen. Analysts have estimated that subscription services like Game Pass, which remains the biggest one out there, might account for 8% of all gaming by the year 2027. Whether that will be a good thing for indie developers remains to be seen. Guys, make sure you're smashing the like button. We did get to like 511 members, which means we're on the final stretch of making my wife play Elden Ring. We need like 89 more members. We do not have gifted members yet. It'd be amazing to hit that goal of 600 members without that feature. We've applied. They're rolling the beta out all throughout this month. Another article was from The Gamer. The first you read was from the second. So the quote I just read was from The Gamer, okay? Microsoft pays devs hundreds of, millions for indie devs to be on Game Pass, right? So the fact that you've got indie devs saying this actually isn't as simple as everybody's making it. It's not as simple as everybody's making it because there could be a bad effect here on the market. You're going to basically, not only are you going to have a race to the bottom, but you're also going to be potentially experiencing just reduction in visibility. Because what the guys from Furi said was, they were like, listen, the only way to be successful on that platform is with Game Pass. But Game Pass also drives sales down. So over time, it started to work against what they wanted to see. Because they released the game, and then it did fine for it continued to sell on, is this Kung Fu? Yeah, I'm wearing a Kung Fu shirt from the video game collection. There we go. I forgot to update the shirt command. If you want to use my code over at 80s Tees, be sure to do that. Yo, good morning, Hex. So what's the middle ground? Maybe a 48-hour demo period for new games during the first week of launch, and then if you don't want to keep playing, you buy or wait till it hits Game Pass like HBO Max. Keep in mind, says Distorted, not everyone on Xbox has Game Pass. It's not built in. You have to pay extra for it, and a lot of people do not. So it's not the entire platform utilizing Game Pass cutting sales. Some of this is the market speaking and what it wants and what it doesn't. Right, but you also have to consider, according to the developers at Furi, if you want to get promoted, if you want to get seen on the Xbox ecosystem, you got to be on Game Pass. They were like, it's Game Pass or bust, basically. The old Xbox Live Arcade and Summer Games was great, says Suede. Probably the best thing for devs. Now, it's a catch-22, and the publishers and the contracts are screwing devs, especially the little guys. The article is shilling for the big guys. How is it shilling for the big guys when it's saying, man, these little indie companies might be getting screwed? Here's another quote. Conceivably, indie games outside of these services might lose engagement as subscribers focus most of their attention on games they can access for free within the service. Game Pass is one of the reasons the perceived value of indie games is in a race to the bottom, according to a veteran developer, Jake Simpson of TNB Studios. He told BBC, people are prepared to spend thousands of dollars on a telephone, and then they get very offended if you ask them to pay $5 for a game. So some perspective there on what this is doing to the market. We've talked about this, right? It's going to have that Netflix effect. You know, it's going to have that Netflix effect. You're going to have that feeling of it's a race to the bottom. The only way to be successful is to be on Game Pass. Game Pass drives down sales, though. So game companies are going to start to say, listen, this is my prediction. This is my soft prediction. If these, let's just say as a qualifying statement, right? I got a haircut and I'm having trouble with it. The length's not quite where I want it. I like when it's a little bit longer, so it's in that too short period. I get used to it being a little bit longer and like fun to play with, and then, giggity. Anyway. So this is my prediction. If these indie titles are not anomalous, let's just imagine they are not anomalous at all. These are genuine reports of, yeah, we didn't do well. Yeah, you need to be on Game Pass to be successful, right? It's creating a race to the bottom. It's creating a devaluation of indie titles, okay? So if these reports are to be believed, and not just people blowing smoke, like I don't know why indie titles would turn and bite the hand that feeds them, right? If Game Pass is so good, then why are indie developers speaking out and being like, yeah, this actually might not be good for indie developers? Keep in mind, I have continued to say that Game Pass is a wonderful value and Game Pass is really good for indie titles. I'm not bashing Xbox. I'm listening to the devs and saying, there might be more at play here. There might be more going on than just like, oh, this is a great value and indies get a ton of exposure. I think if what these devs are saying is true, you're going to see another exodus from that Xbox funnel. We've already talked about how big AAA titles are going to be like, we don't want to be on Game Pass during our launch month. It isn't good. It hurt sales. It hurt Outriders. And now indies might say the same thing. Listen, the only way to get in the good graces of Xbox is to go into their Game Pass. Think about the power that Xbox has in that exchange. Listen, if you want exposure, you got to be on Game Pass. Think of how easily that means they can lowball them on the offer. Because according to the stats that I pulled up, okay, according to LaPrince, PlayStation Plus partnership was 1/4 of Haven's budget, and Game Pass was... No, I'm sorry. PlayStation Plus was 1/3 of Furi's budget, and that was paid for with the PlayStation Plus partnership, while 1/4 of Haven's budget was paid for by Game Pass with Microsoft. Both meant the games were briefly free on the platforms. So those offers could start to go down from Microsoft. Your camera's looking extra crisp for me today. Oh, thank you. Those offers could start to go down. They could say, listen, if you want to survive on our ecosystem, you got to be in Game Pass, which means we're not going to offer you as much as we used to. We're going to offer you less. We're going to offer you less stuff. We're going to offer you less money. If Game Pass is allowed to continue as is, then the indie scene, honestly, games as a whole, eventually will turn into the mobile scene, where everything is free and microtransactions are rampant. Is that what we want? Yo, what's good, Hucules? Morning, Lono in chat. Saw your 58-second clip about Game Pass versus PlayStation Plus. I agree with you. Yeah, you know what we need to do? I just realized what we need to do. We've been pushing those out. It should not hit your notifications, but we've been pushing those out because we really feel like it's a great way to get in front of new people, and the vids have been doing pretty well, honestly. Surprisingly enough, I'm gonna put this video on it. Let's do a video, and then let's choose a specific one so they end up in this stream. There we go. Let's try that. Let's see if we can't get some people from the short shelf in here. Okay, if this is such a big issue, says Distorted, I recommend they make a special category for indie titles where they are on Game Pass for much less time and maybe a better pay cut for the indies to make up for too many lost sales. What do you think of my idea? Derek says, if both Microsoft and Sony are smart, I think they will plan the first big enticing games to hit the subscription services right about 1 to 2 months into the new system to keep people and draw new players in. Well, Microsoft's not changing their system. Their ecosystem's up and running. PlayStation's the one that's getting ready to roll out their PlayStation Plus thing in June. Microsoft, as far as I know, isn't making any changes. And the issue that I see is that it's a catch-22. If you want people to know that your game exists as an indie title on Xbox, you need to be on Game Pass. If you're on Game Pass, you're basically accepting money from Microsoft instead of allowing sales to drive your profit. Think of games that do incredibly well like Death's Door. Death's Door comes out and sells 100,000 copies on Steam, becomes like an instant hit classic in the indie world. Imagine if it was on a subscription service where you didn't have to pay any money. It's a take it or leave it situation. Take the money or your game is treated like shovelware on Xbox platform. Right, and I think in general, that's what these guys are getting at is, you know, and just so you guys know, shovelware is a derogatory term used for software that has either been quickly developed without regard to quality or function and features, or software that has been forced on consumers, such as those that are preloaded. So that's what people are saying, is that you'll be treated in that way, just like kind of cast over here in this big giant bin. Micros are very good, says Harry. Most games have them figured out these days. Apart from Genshin and Lost Ark, those games can F off with their trash micros. I thought people changed their opinion. I don't know. Livestream didn't pop up this morning for some reason. I literally had to go looking for it. Yeah, they're doing something again this morning because I couldn't get the chat to show up. Refunds are typically issued at the request made within 14 days of purchase of the games in which you haven't accumulated a significant amount of pay time. Are you guys talking about Steam? Game Pass is a lifeline for some. I can see PlayStation first-party games going into the PlayStation Plus, like MCU movies going to Disney Plus a couple months after release. Oh, of course, Jeff, 100%. I would say that they'll put them on a 6-month cycle. Maybe. Like 6 months in, they'll be like, hey, Ragnarok is now on PlayStation Plus. Maybe. I think they might wait a whole year. Because their sales funnel is so healthy for such an extended period of time. I'd have a hard time thinking that they would want to do it if they do it too early, they're basically chopping off so much profit. When you love an indie, it really breeds loyalty. If Playdead Inside Limbo announces a new game, I will pay for it right this second. GP making it available to more people could be cool. It becomes a tension, though. There's a tension between how much is Microsoft going to give us and how well can we do without being on Game Pass. Because if you're not on Game Pass, you're not going to get seen. So you feel like you need to be on Game Pass. Well, if Microsoft knows that, they may start offering less and less money to indies to be like, listen, we don't have to pay you that much. You're either going to live or die on our platform, and if you're not in the funnel, then that's it. Yo, what's good, Ancient? Ubisoft Plus is in the extra and premium tier, says Mo. The sales boost they get every hardware drop is nuts, says Eugene. They won't do it early until PlayStation 5 saturation is higher. Oh, for sure. What these people are describing as an alternative to Game Pass is PlayStation Plus Premium. Game trials for a limited time, and then the game goes on sale, and then the game goes into a service. Microtransactions are only good right now, says Sean, because of the massive pushback from the gaming community against the more egregious steps that these devs and pubs try to insert. They want to do much worse and will. I'm not necessarily scared of micros like the boogeyman, because I generally think there are some places that will achieve this. Certain markets and certain games, I think, will achieve really high levels of micros, but I don't think it's going to get the foothold everybody thinks it is. I think it'll be too disruptive to so many of the most popular games. The most popular, now mobile's doing amazing, but there's giant demographics of people that don't touch mobile games. If that's some of your takes, how are these games treated any differently on non-Game Pass platforms? How is it Game Pass or bust on Xbox? How are we doing better anywhere else without Game Pass? Yeah, I don't know, Distorted. I don't know. The guy tried to theorize about why they did well and won. He said, LaPrice isn't sure exactly why Fury connected more strongly on PlayStation than Xbox, though she theorized the platform's strong connection to Japanese games, which also influenced the design of Fury, may have played a role, but the game also feels very French. We're not sure, she said. We'd like to know, though. There's one reason for Xbox owners to be hopeful: the unexpected outcry caused by developers' attention, and if Fury sells enough, a return to Xbox is possible. We sincerely hope the DLC will be successful so that we can bring it to Xbox in the near future. So they're not really sure why it did better on PlayStation, but it did. The games that make the most of micros are games that do it right. Game companies have the data now. Compare the average money spent on a game like Valorant to a game like Lost Ark. I don't know if you want to do that, Harry. Lost Ark is insanely successful. Like, very, very profitable. Now, maybe you're talking about in the West, right? Maybe you're talking about in the West. Yo, what's up, Daily Grind? Isn't Xbox and PC development supposed to be similar? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Eugene. They're releasing the Fury DLC on PlayStation and PC and not on Xbox, right? Microtransactions are fine as long as they are not mandatory. Mandatory microtransactions are bad, but in instances where they are voluntary, it is fine. It depends on what you mean by voluntary, though. Hilly says, I think Xbox needs to add an indie category in the store. I think it would help all of them. Just between my group of friends, the average money spent on Valorant is easily over 1,000. Easily. I mean, I don't know about the Western market, Harry, but Lost Ark just makes a ton of money. I don't know if Valorant even comes close. Because you have to remember that Lost Ark was super popular in Korea and I think Russia and somewhere else before it even came to the West. So I just don't know. That revenue funnel and player funnel is a force to be reckoned with. I don't know if Valorant holds a candle. I know Valorant's done incredibly well. I know Valorant has done incredibly well, but we would want to look at global reports, not anecdotal reports. Like, I'm sure you and your friends have spent a pretty penny, but hey, it's the first member of the day, T Grim. Welcome on in. Enjoy the dope badge and emotes. You are dope and deserve dope stuff. We've had one coffee order and one member. We love to see about 6 of each day. It pushes us closer to making my wife play Elden Ring. That puts us at like 512 members. So we did cross into 500s, and now we're on the home stretch to get to 600. We don't even have the gifted memberships beta yet, and we're pushing. I kind of want to make it a matter of pride. Like, can we hit 600 without that beta? I don't doubt it makes a ton of money, but are you putting money on the average player putting hundreds of thousands on micros? Are they better advertised? I don't know, Harry. I really don't. Because, again, every game has whales. Like, every game has people that spend a ton of money. That, generally speaking, even Valorant isn't a unique funnel because that's a game that's going to have more committed players, right? So Valorant's been very successful, and the people that play it are more committed because of just the game type alone, I think, weeds out the casuals. Distorted says, are they better on PlayStation or Steam than Xbox, to where we can blame Game Pass to be the only way to get seen on Xbox, or is it just better, or is it just their assumption or copium? Well, I mean, I think they were basing it on a couple of things. They didn't sell well. Xbox was like, no, we don't want to put you in front. We don't want to do any marketing. We don't want to do any pushes. Why? Because they basically, it seems like Game Pass is focused on new games. You're a whale, Harry. You just don't know it. You and your friends are Valorant whales. Yeah, I mean, thousands of dollars. I don't think that is. I don't think that's normative on that platform. Yo, what's good, Mike on the mic? It's something like 20% are responsible for 80% of the revenue. Averages are not spending hundreds of thousands. Generally speaking, microtransactions break down that way. Is the 20% spend about 80%. 80% of the game industry's profits comes from 20% of the gamers. Whales control the market, and companies cater to the whales. Do you ship the coffee to Belgium? We can put your shipping information in there. It's going to be, the shipping will be a little pricey, though. Yo, good day, Toshibo. How was the weekend? It was great. Voluntary means a game where you can buy microtransactions, but you don't need to buy microtransactions in order to progress. Play the game in a reasonable manner. No, I know the difference, and I do think required microtransactions are not going to be a very common thing. Resident Recon says, if Game Pass is destroyed and goes away, I'll convert to PC gaming because there's no way I'm going back to spending $60 a year on Xbox Live. Game Pass comes with Xbox Live, $15 a month for live and games. This is one of the issues long term with Game Pass. The burgers turned out amazing, Fonzo. They were phenomenal. We had our friends over, and we love to have them over because they like burgers. So it's like, my wife doesn't eat red meat, so it's like, it's nice for me to make them for people that really appreciate them. So the other guy already put something similar in chat while I was typing mine. Glad to see I'm not the only one who keeps up with these things. Oh, right, yeah, the 80-20 rule. Butter says, keep in mind, PC has been pro-indie for decades. Also, PS4 was a massive push for indies. All their free with Plus games every month, 9 to 10 times were indies. Rare to see AAAs on Plus. Have not seen Xbox push indies in the history of Xbox. Game Pass won't go away. The library and offerings will change, says Eugene. Morning, everyone. Lo, did you see the lineup for PlayStation Plus? Ghost, AC Valhalla, ETC. Yeah, I mean, they're doing... that's actually really smart if you think about it. Basically, what PlayStation is doing is they're really putting a ton of great hits in that funnel before they make the big change in June. Yeah, before they make the big change in June. I think it's really smart. The concern that we have for Game Pass is, I made the prediction. I was like, I think they're going to move. I think they're going to move. AAA games are going to be on Game Pass, but they won't be their launch month. That's what I think is going to start to happen. Now, that Microsoft, again, this is the dilemma, is that if you approach Microsoft and you say, hey, we've got our game coming out, what kind of promotional work can we do with you? Microsoft is going to have a heavy invested reason to be like, we want you on Game Pass. You can be an indie title, you could be a AAA title, you could be at any level, and they're going to really want to put you on Game Pass, okay? Now, they're potentially going to make it very hard for you if you don't agree to that. Right? I'm not saying they're going to do this. But if you think about it, Microsoft has a vested business interest in saying, listen, you want to do well on our platform? Right? You want to do well on our platform? Well, you got to be on Game Pass. We're not going to get any love if you won't be on our Game Pass. Game Pass is central to our strategy. I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm saying they could. Is that a real background? Yeah, that's real. That's like a real foam wall. You can see the lights on my hand. That's a real foam wall with my own disc plates. Corey says, your stance is common and why Game Pass is both keeping Xbox alive and also killing it at the same time. Game Pass is why gamers are staying on Xbox, but it could mean that devs don't go to Xbox. Gary says, Castle Clash is one that got me and my buddy. We're console gamers, but that mobile game got us. Too much money spent. Oh, man. Those games will get you, Gary. They will. Game Pass isn't going anywhere. It's highly successful and directly tied into Xbox's xCloud gaming, both of which is what Xbox is banking on as their future. Okay, well, here's the thing. Distorted. Xbox Game Pass has been very successful. I'm not going to deny that. They've filled a funnel with 20-something million people and are likely, getting more and more people every day, right? So I'm not going to deny the success of Game Pass. I'm also not going to deny the potential ongoing growth and success of it because of what it can do and what it can offer. However, at the moment, it's looking as though they're going to have to reevaluate what exactly the offerings are and how it all plays out. Didn't notice the displays. Those things are clean. Oh, thank you, Fozzie. Is this real life or a simulation? Yeah, and if you like my shirt, it's a classic Nintendo Kung Fu shirt. You can get that from the video game collection over at 80stees.com. Just remember to use code Lono over there. Microsoft ideally has ID at Xbox. They have indie games on Game Pass all the time. All the Ratchets, it's a great idea. It lets you play all the old games, then purchase the new one full price to continue the story, or you wait 6 to 12 months. Distorted has a good point. Right. I'm not taking away from that. I do. I think the xCloud, I think gamers' expectations about being able to play anywhere. I think the gamers' expectations about like subscription services and getting games for free. I think all of those things factor in. I really do. I think they all factor in. I think Microsoft has made some good decisions. I think they're going to have to really consider the state of things right now. Because I'm telling you, if indie companies start to look at Game Pass the same way that I think big AAA companies are looking at Game Pass, then Microsoft's got to consider a slight shift. To be like, wait a minute, we're driving people away, we're driving devs away from our platform. East Coast Overlord with a $5 tip through YouTube Super Chat. Do you think Microsoft will bring native games to other platforms or just their cloud service, since it's probably a lot easier? They'll probably start purely with cloud. And then that might move. I don't know. Devs are going to walk away from not being able to sell games. It's really that simple. Right. That's what it comes down to, is that fundamentally Microsoft's goal of growing Game Pass is not necessarily congruent with the goals of every developer. Like, listen, man, we want to sell tons of copies of our game. That's not going to happen when 20 million people don't have to buy the game. I think Xbox is heading in the right direction with Game Pass. Not going to lie, PlayStation watched how the market has reacted to Game Pass for the last few years, and they came up with a happy medium for gamers and publishers with PlayStation Plus Premium. I agree with that, Corey. SDMF renewing their membership, hitting a 7-month milestone and doing a tier 2. Welcome back in, SDMF. Guys, if you've never done a membership on YouTube, it's $5 a month. You can click that join button or type !join in the chat. It supports me directly and you get into extra content. We are getting some feedback from you guys about the fact that like the members content's hard to find. We're brainstorming on what to do with that, because Friday night was a light turnout, and I don't know if it was completely on Halo Infinite, because Halo Infinite interest died really quickly, it seems. When we covered speedrunning, I feel like we had a good day though. But we don't want people to feel like, oh man, I became a member and I didn't see the content. I didn't know where to go. So we're considering a couple of things that we might be able to do. I was thinking like maybe a premiere only on Friday nights, where we kind of announce and say, hey, this is what's going on tonight. If you want to be a part of it, become a member, and then just delete the premiere later. I just don't know. That kind of stuff can tend to be bad for your channel, because then subs get annoyed. It's just, there's not a great way to ping members, it seems. So Just so you know, if you're a member and you're not seeing the members' content, there's a members-only playlist on the channel. So you go to the channel and then check the community tab. We try and post and do all that to alert you when we're doing stuff. Siege Master with 6 months of membership. That's a 6-month milestone. Thanks for renewing. I actually got a pop-up telling me I could do this. Good morning. Oh, that's good. Well, welcome in or welcome back. I wasn't here Friday night. Had an early B-Day dinner. No, it's totally fine. I was just like, we're 2 weeks barely into the season, and we had a ton of people become members. And I was like, man, I really, really hope that they're not thinking that we're not doing it. You can also go to the community tab. Yeah, the community tab. It just doesn't do a good job of pinging people. The last game on Friday, I didn't even realize you left. It just started to get hard to find people. I figured y'all were hiding. See my above message says distorted. The Game Pass problems are easy to fix. Being on Game Pass is not the problem. It's just a matter of when they go on Game Pass. If they stagger the games to offer properly, it'll work fine. Okay, here's the issue with that, distorted. I'm glad you said that, all right? I'm glad you said that. Because according to the developers at Furi, Microsoft's strategy for Game Pass is new releases. So Microsoft's going to have to change their strategy and say, listen, new releases don't line up with the goals of most developers. We can't offer them enough money to offset the lack of purchases, right? Hey man, during launch month, we anticipate selling this much, and if we're on your Game Pass, we're not going to sell it all. Like, quite literally, we won't sell it all. That's what happened with that Haven game. It didn't sell. They didn't sell any copies. Well, maybe not any, but they said, where's the quote here about it? Furi was selling less and less. Where's the quote about Haven? Haven just didn't sell. I can't find the quote. Oh, here it is. Compounding the issue was an inability to secure future promotions for Furi on Xbox's storefront for increased awareness, and Haven didn't sell at all on Xbox outside of its Game Pass partnership. So it got less than like 3%, and people with Game Pass, it made up a huge portion. This makes sense. I do not think I've ever visited the Microsoft store. I only look at Game Pass games. They need to work on that. Haven was a bad game. Okay, but Mo, you're speaking about a particular game. We're saying that companies are going to look at this. It's like when we were talking about Outriders. Well, Outriders was bad and had problems. Yeah, that's true. All of that's true. But at the same time, what do you want? Like, not every game coming out is going to be 5 stars, so there are going to be games that struggle. There are going to be games that have problems. Do we know the splits for indie games before the Game Pass era? I have no idea, Zubair. I don't know. Haven and Furi had similar review and user scores, says Eugene. How did Haven score? I think did you post that in the Discord? Haven's Metacritic. Haven's Metacritic got a 73 from the reviewers and a 7.8 from users. So to say that's a bad game, I just think is oversimplifying it. 93 ratings, it got a 7.8. That's not bad at all. I like, it's hard to maintain a good score with low numbers. It'd be easy for 20 or 30 people to tank that score. If you have a bad game, it will not sell. I don't consider a 7.8 a bad game. No way. No way. Out of 93? No. This is the classic argument. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? How is it that? Has there been information released about how much Microsoft pays for games on Game Pass? No. All we have in here is very generic figures. 1/3 of Furi's budget was paid for by PlayStation Plus partnership, and then 1/4 of Haven's budget was paid for by Game Pass. So they got 1/4 of their budget from Game Pass, and then on Furi they got 1/3 of their budget from PlayStation. Now I don't know if Haven had a bigger budget, and that's why the percentages are off. Thomas says, so is this problem only that the people on Xbox are interested and see indies is on Game Pass, but the problem is it almost impossible to make profit for indies on post Game Pass on Game Pass. It's not even that. It's that they don't sell at all if they're on Game Pass, or they sell significantly lower. Furi sold 1/3 of what it sold on the Switch on Xbox. Like, okay, think about that. Think about that quote. Okay, think about that quote. Okay. Yeah, right here, right here. The numbers don't lie. Furi on Xbox was selling less and less, and according to Le Prince, it was under 1/3 of the sales on Switch. Who is Le Prince, by the way? Because I referred to them as the developer throughout it, because I didn't want to say he or she, but it's a she. And Furi's definition. The problem is, however, outside the game, said Le Prince. Why don't they? If you're going to start calling somebody by their last name, the rules of journalism. Here it is. President Audrey Le Prince in an interview with Waypoint. Okay. There we go. I was going to say, rules of journalism, you have to use their full name somewhere if you're going to start referring to them as their last name. Audrey Le Prince is the president. And according to her, they sold 1/3 of what they were selling on Xbox on the Switch. Now, I want you to think about that. If Microsoft and Xbox is a great platform for indies, those numbers don't sound very good. I look online to see what's coming out this year, to see what I fancy buying. This year it was Elden Ring and Starfield and nothing else. I don't really need to look on the store. Well, I mean, not everybody works that way, though. Indie games are typically shorter, and if I can beat that game before it leaves Game Pass, then why would I bother supporting the devs? That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So that's the issue. Like, I just really track with this stat with me. Furi is a really good indie game, and it sold under 1/3 of the sales on Switch on Xbox. That doesn't mean that. How can you look at that and be like, yeah, Microsoft's a great platform for indies? It sold better on the Switch. Now, again, it could be something about the game that appeals to more, I don't know, out of the Western market, maybe more Asian market or something. I don't really know. When did it come out? Oh, it originally came out a while ago. 2016. Came out in 2016. They pushed out an update and they skipped Xbox. And when they explained their reasoning, I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's what we're talking about today. Is Xbox Game Pass bad for indies? Because it kind of feels like it might be. If Xbox is a bad platform for indies, then they need to focus on other platforms. If Xbox players want indies, then Microsoft will have to adapt. To be clear, almost every game I download on Game Pass has distorted or games I would not spend money on to play, and I'm sure there are plenty of others who do the same. Not every download would be a sale. Well, no one's saying that distorted. No one's saying every download would be a sale. What we're saying is, because it's an indie, the download enables them to not make a sale. They're like, well, why would I buy this? I beat it. You know what I mean? Wasn't that for Xbox One? It's a different gen nowadays. What difference does it make? That doesn't have anything to do with the quote that Furi sold less than 1/3 of what they were under 1/3 of the sales on Switch. So as Doom pointed out, would Game Pass have been a factor back in 2016? When did Game Pass launch? Because it says here, compounding the issue was an inability to secure future promotions for Furi on Xbox's storefront for increased awareness, and Haven didn't sell at all on Xbox outside of Game Pass partnership. Yeah, when did they launch Game Pass? Game Pass launch. Game Pass launched in 2017. Furi ended up on there. Because they showed here the percentage of Fury units platforms with PS Plus, Fury units platforms without PS Plus, and they talked about how so they did PlayStation Plus with Fury. When did they go on Game Pass? Because I swear it said that in the article. They ended up on Game Pass eventually. Or did they base their findings on what Haven did? I think they based their decision off of what Haven did. They were like, we didn't sell well on Xbox, and then Haven didn't sell at all because of Game Pass. So it's a combined decision. So, yeah, I don't think we can say, like, oh, Fury, we don't want to misspeak. Oh, Fury did poor because of Game Pass, because Fury predates Game Pass. But Fury did poor on the platform, and Microsoft was like, we're not, the strategy of Game Pass going forward is new titles, so we don't want to help your indie. Well, they're like, well, we don't want to be on Game Pass because we did that with Haven, and it didn't go very well, right? So that's the question. They're basing it off of two different things that happened. So it's not about Fury's performance because of Game Pass. It's about Fury's performance, Microsoft's response to promotion, any kind of promotions for Fury to help it, right? And how Haven did on Game Pass. So they're looking at it from three different angles. Didn't sell well. Fury didn't do well on the platform for whatever reason. We couldn't get Microsoft to back it with any kind of promotional work because it's not a new game. And they seem to only want things on Game Pass. So we did Haven on Game Pass, and it didn't go well. We didn't sell any titles. So they're basing it off of three different things. So we need to make sure we're nuanced here and not misrepresent like why Fury did poorly. That Fury didn't do poorly because of Game Pass. I'm not going to say that because that would be untrue. I thought they wanted to be on Game Pass, but Microsoft was not interested in promoting it. Let me try and find where that said, because it sounded like... Game Pass is such a fantastic platform for players, so there's possibly more Xbox players than ever interested in indie games. Unfortunately, without Game Pass, it's very hard for indie games to be visible. Where did they talk about not being on Game Pass? Did they say express interest? Here it is. Here's the quote. Eugene found it. We talked to a team at Xbox to see if there was a way to get some support, but Fury didn't align with Game Pass strategy focused on new titles. This is why we took the decision to not bring the DLC to Xbox at launch. The chances the investment was not going to recoup were high. So I can't tell reading that, did they ask to be on Game Pass? Or was Microsoft basically like, who said they don't fit on Game Pass? Was it Microsoft or was it the developers? It's hard to read that sentence and figure out who's doing what there. Did the developers approach Microsoft and say, we would love some promotional work, and Microsoft's like, the only thing we do with indies is Game Pass, and your game's not new? Or did the developers go to Microsoft and say, hey, can we get on Game Pass for some promotion? And they're like, no. It's so hard reading that to determine what exactly the conversation was between them. Fundamentally, they looked at what Haven did, and it sounds to me like they didn't want to be on Game Pass. Why would they say what they said about how Haven performed and then turn around and go and be on their funnel? Sounds like Microsoft is looking to promote only new titles. This is why Game Pass became a rental system. People can try before they buy and buy the game if they like it, or allow new releases on Game Pass day one, then remove it after a week or two. I bought 7 indies on Game Pass in the middle of my playthroughs. I love the Ascent so much, I brought it a quarter of the way through. I bought 500 games on Xbox since the 360. I don't think that you're normal, though. Not in a mean way. That doesn't sound like a normal consumer. Fury's DLC is releasing, like, soon, isn't it? When's it hitting? It's hitting this year, but do they have a concrete date? Or did it already hit? Fury's getting updated for 2022, except not on Xbox. This doesn't read like it's out of spite. It doesn't read like it's out of spite. It reads like their strategy and Microsoft's strategies just didn't line up. Yo, could we get 23 more likes on this video? 23 more likes in the next 30 seconds would be phenomenal. We might be able to really crank this stream up. We've had a good start, but we need those likes to be in a nice spot for the first hour of the stream. Definitely a mixed bag, says Salty. I use Game Pass a lot, but most likely end up buying the games I play plus all their DLC if the game is good. I use it as a platform to judge whether or not I want to support a game. Doom says, I'm a whale for supporting the games that look great to me. Thanks a lot. I don't think you're understanding. When they're saying you're a whale, that's not an insult. That's just a descriptor. If you are literally buying every game that you try and you like, you're a whale, as in you're outside the bell curve, homie. Most gamers aren't doing that. You're not going to find people doing that on a subscription service. They spend money on the subscription service quite literally so they don't have to do that. They do it so they don't have to buy those games. It's a way to save money. You're like double dipping. You're spending money on the subscription, and then when you enjoy a game, you're doubling down and being like, I'm buying the game as well. How many of those games could you complete and never spend a dime? Probably a lot of them. So yeah, you're a whale. Like that's somebody going over and above what the average consumer spends. That's what being a whale means. Being a whale is not an insult at all. It's a descriptor. It's like an economic descriptor. You're a highly aggressive orca. Whale means fat cat, not being fat. Yeah, you're not like, it's not a comment on your actual size or anything. And props to you for supporting what you like. Yeah, you have to see that you doing that is really, really good for the developers, but it's not normative. It's totally not normative. Normal consumers are not going to go above and beyond and spend that kind of money. Like when I have, a subscription to like Netflix or something, I am not going out of my way to support those things and go buy them. I watch them and then that's the end of it. Yo, good morning, Grim Brother over there on TikTok. People need to stop saying numbers don't lie. They certainly do. Look no further than political polls. Some will manipulate numbers to push a narrative. It's just a turn of phrase. I mean, I'm not trying to use the numbers don't lie like to establish some sort of truth axiom. Do you know what I'm saying? How many more likes do we need? Oh, just 3 more likes. Come on, chat. Come on, 200 likes in the first hour is really, really good. Let's do a poll. Xbox Game Pass. Do you buy the games you enjoy, even though, wait, hang on, after playing them? Yes, all the time, sometimes, and never. So yes, all the time, sometimes, and never. So if you play a game on the Xbox Game Pass, I want to know, are you going and buying it? I want to know, because that I'm telling you. Tighten up, gaming, tighten up. Oh, hang on, I can't see the full image. Oh, you're catching up. Yeah. Yep. We need some more banger shorts to take off. Is any information ever leaked about what Microsoft's pay structure is for Game Pass games? No. This is close. Need more votes. Yeah. We just launched the poll, so I 100% bought Ori and Sable almost immediately, says Barrier. I bet you we're going to get a bunch of sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it's going to lead the pack. Props, because the average person will just stick to Game Pass. It's the same with music. Not everyone will buy vinyl after listening to a great favorite song. I think comparing it to music is a really good comparison, so allow me to do that. If you guys are enjoying the show, do a couple things for me. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my shows. If I'm ever not in your home feed or your recommended feed, go to your subscription feed or my channel. We stream every day. We will be covering the Fall Guys live announcement, big announcement today. Very excited about what that means. We will be covering that live. That's our second show of the day. We'll then be going over to Reforge Radio. There's a lot of other gaming news going on. The big lead story for Reforge Radio is Fortnite releasing the Unreal 5 engine editor. So we'll be covering that later today. Make sure that you have hit the like button, you've said something in chat or voted in chat. All those things help the video. Consider becoming a member. We hit a milestone of 500, but now we're at like 512. We're working to get to 600 members before the end of this month. It's $5. You get into extra streams, and you can make my wife play Elden Ring. If we hit 1,000 members, she'll do a cam reveal, but we'll probably hit that with gifted members. I would love to hit 600 members without the gifted member beta, okay? Those are all the best ways to support the channel, or order some coffee if you're a coffee drinker and you've never had coffee with balanced acidity. Chat will tell you how good it is, and you can use the coffee command to order it. I just bought Overwatch, still over $60 somehow because my wife loves it, says Grim Brother. After playing Stellaris on Game Pass, I decided to buy it, says Victor, but I bought a huge discounted package on Steam. Yeah, let me talk about music for a second. This is tough. Because I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, but I probably am going to sound like a hypocrite. And maybe, I think we all have certain levels of hypocrisy in our life. Always. Anyways. So, music subscriptions are, I think, a great value to me because I get on a Spotify music subscription and I play copyright-free music all throughout the day. And then when I hop in my car and I'm driving around with my kiddos, I can pull up any album I want for the most part. My little boy and I, we were out on a little father-son date yesterday. We were rocking out of some August Burns Red because my wife can't stand listening to it, so we were kind of jamming out. Put that on. Sometimes I'm putting on other music, and Chevelle's new album. It's not really new, but I was listening to that. I'm not giving any money to those musicians or those bands. I'm just not, okay? Now, one of the reasons I'm not is because the value of the subscription far outweighs the need or my desire to go buy an album. Like, I don't need to buy an album. I don't need to. So why would I do that? Why? Well, to support the band. Okay, well, if I supported every band I listened to with album purchases, I wouldn't have a whole lot of money left over, right? So the Game Pass value is going to do the same thing to people. It's going to bake into their mind this idea that it's no different than Spotify. It's no different than Netflix. It's a subscription that you sign up for. Hey, man, I've got Xbox Game Pass, and the value of what I get far outweighs my need to buy games. Why would I need to do that? They're right here. I can install them right now, right? Most of what I listen to I already own. You just made me question why I have the subs. The artists get paid per listen. Right, they get paid per listen, like peanuts, like pennies. So, album sales don't support the band, concerts and merch do. Right? That's another one, right, Zubair? That's another one. Like, even if I went and bought the albums, you could argue that I'm not really supporting the band that much either. That's still, pennies on the dollar that they're going to get per album sale. So you could probably argue it's not even worth it to go buy the album. They're still going to get barely any money, right? I'm better off regularly listening to it on Spotify. They get credit for that. Over time, I wonder if that's true. I wonder if anybody could crunch the numbers on this. Over time, if I listen to a certain band's album on Spotify year after year after year, does the money that they get from that eventually surpass the money they would get from a single album purchase? If I buy the album one time, they get a percentage from that album purchase once, and that's the end of it. But they continue to get paid every time I roll that album. So I'm wondering, is there a tipping point? Like, did they eventually make more money because I'm playing the music, year after year after year, like 3 or 4 years down the road, I'm still listening to some of these albums, and they would have made money from me one time 3 or 4 years ago. Instead, they're still making money from me. The comparison is moot. It is a little bit of a moot comparison. What I'm trying to make a comparison is not the actual dollars in support to the bands compared to the dollars in support to the developers. I'm trying to show that once that value becomes so big and easy and accessible, it outweighs the desire or any kind of draw for me to buy something individually. It's like, what's the point? Why would I do that? Ask Andrew. Yeah, I guess I could ask him. He would know. He would know better than me. An artist can still produce more than enough music. Same will happen with Game Pass. Nobody willing to pay $30 for some mid-tier indie anyway. I use Spotify, Pandora, YouTube for discovery, and then I buy the stuff I like via Bandcamp, physical copies, etc. Your average song is under 5 to 10 minutes compared to a video game's like 6+ hours. I buy rogues that I like from Game Pass. 2 monthly refreshes for top 2 tiers. Oh, for PlayStation? Like adding just more games? Yeah, I mean, Xbox Game Pass being bad for indies, I don't think is universal. I'm not trying to make a universal statement, but I definitely think they're going to have to reanalyze what exactly they're doing. Because if you drive indies away from your Xbox Game Pass funnel, and then you also are driving you're driving the big AAA titles away because they're like, dude, no way, you can't pay us enough money to be in that funnel, because if we're in that funnel, we're gonna get clobbered on sales. No way, we're not going in that funnel. Absolutely not. Well, indies might start saying the same thing based on some of the stuff that we read this morning. They might start doing similar things of like, hey, the Game Pass funnel's not worth it. It's the only way to be seen. But then when we do it, we make way less money, and that's not good. Like, we need to make money. That's what we're in the business to do. I think a better comparison is books. I seldom read a book twice. Same with most games. Not to sound cheap, but I haven't bought a single game off Game Pass. I haven't even bought Halo. I don't think you sound cheap. That sounds normal. That's a normal consumer response to a subscription service. As a rule, I try not to buy anything I can get for my subscription service. It's just a waste of money. Only way I would pay is if I plan to get rid of the subscription or if the game is taken off. Here's the rub. Those same $30 indies that you won't buy on Xbox sell well on the PlayStation at the same $30 price point. Yeah, that's another question that you have to ask. I actually became a more broad gamer because of Game Pass. RTSs alone as a game type like Age of Empires I really enjoy. Hex says, wouldn't a good idea be Game Pass pays indie devs a slight smaller lump sum to get on Game Pass, and then based on the game's performance an additional sum? Yeah, Hex, right? Like, there needs to be a contingency in place. We're going to measure the value you brought to Game Pass, and we're going to do that by measuring downloads and some kind of a spectrum of playtime. So if you hit this threshold of downloads, and combined with that you hit this threshold of playtime, we're going to estimate that you brought this level of value to Game Pass, and you'll be played handsomely. Instead of, man, your game crushed it on Game Pass. Yeah, 80% of the people who downloaded it, finished the game. And then the devs are like, cool, we get nothing from that. I'm really getting the impression that Game Pass isn't stealing sales. Those games would just never get played by that audience. But why did it sell well everywhere else? Like, Haven didn't do poorly everywhere else. It didn't sell at all on Game Pass. So, Haven units and platforms without Game Pass. 58% was Autris PC. 17% was Switch. Steam. 58% was Steam. That's the largest chunk. Largest chunk is Steam. 70% is Switch. 11% is PS5. PS4 is 9%. Xbox barely beats out Autris PC. I don't even know what Autris PC is. It barely beat out... I don't even know what this is. Autris PC? What is this? It's some French thing. It's some French PC platform? Ubisoft Plus is coming to PlayStation. Oh, writing's on the wall, creature. JW hitting a 16-month milestone. Thank you for renewing your membership. How the time flies when you're having fun. Keep up the great work, Lono. Thank you, JW. Game Pass is letting Xbox players dabble in indies for the first time. Well, that's not necessarily true. ID at Xbox launch. When did Xbox... no, yeah, that's not true, Zubair. ID at Xbox launched in 2014, which was a huge push to both procure indie companies and push indie games on the platform, okay? It's an indie developers program at Xbox One. It enables qualified game developers of all sizes to unleash their creativity by self-publishing digital games on Xbox, okay? So ID at Xbox launches in 2014. 3 years later, Game Pass comes out. And Game Pass is, I think, potentially a giant sabotaging effect on what ID at Xbox can be. Does that make sense? Like, does that make sense? The idea being like, hey, we're gonna make this big push. We're gonna get more, independent games. We're gonna get more indies on the Xbox platform. We're gonna help these people self-publish, and then Game Pass comes along, and it's like, oh, this is our big push now. So if you're gonna be on our platform and you want to be seen, you've got to be in this funnel. Okay. Well, if you go in that funnel, you are 100% damaging your potential sales, which is how most of these companies make their money. And it's not surprising. Think of it this way. Furi launched a year before Game Pass, and over the years it just sold less and less and less on the Microsoft platform, and eventually hit a point where it was under 1/3 of what it sold on Switch. Yo, Darth Nihilus hitting a 6-month milestone. Thank you for renewing. Welcome back in. Hey, second new member of the day, Damon Marie. Thank you, Damon, for clicking the join button. Enjoy the dope badge and emotes. You are dope and deserve dope stuff. That's 2 new members of the day, pushing us a little bit closer to 600 and making my wife play Elden Ring. Don't forget, as a member, we do extra streams Thursday afternoon and Friday night. You need to come check the channel itself or the community tab to get pinged for those streams, okay? Welcome in, Damon. Thank you very much. Keep a member train going, guys. Click that join button. Let's keep members at the top of the chat. If you're enjoying the show, that's a great way to support it directly. And we've sold 1 order of coffee this morning as well. Round that out to a nice even 2 as well. If you've never tried our coffee, chat will tell you how good it is. We have a light roast and a dark roast. And it's ours. It's not some sponsor. Like, my wife and kiddos ship this to you, all right? So check it out. I think Xbox sort of pioneered indies on consoles with Xbox Live Arcade and Summer of Arcade. Then they lost their way. The typical Xbox users I know are in it for AAA multiplayer games. Which is so weird, Suede, because if you go look at the Game Pass funnel and the Game Pass offerings, it's very commonly front-loaded with indies. Just recently, the 2 big titles I saw right smack at the top of new arrivals, it was Loot River and Unsold. 2 little dope-looking indie titles. Oh. Maybe not make sponsors look so bad. I'm not making sponsors look bad. I just want people to know when they're ordering coffee, it's not some company I'm getting a kickback from. It's mine. Like, there's a big difference between getting a kickback from 80s Teas and, like, a small business that my wife and kiddos help me operate. The way my gaming habits are, I tend to jump from game to game without finishing them. You know, that's a lot of people are like that. A lot of people are like that, and Game Pass helps you continue to do that, for sure. I bought every Halo game at full price since Halo released in 2001. I bought Hellblade and I haven't even finished it. I bought Outriders and didn't cancel my pre-order. I may be so hungry for shooters, but there aren't any, says Merc. Microsoft makes the lion's share of its money on OS and cloud computing technology. This should be troubling for Xbox users because Microsoft didn't know what they were doing with Zune, Mixer, etc. They just shuttered both those programs. My concern long term, if you're just tuning in, we're talking Xbox Game Pass. Is it bad for indies? Recent reports coming out that being on Game Pass drives sales to almost nothing. It happened with a game called Haven, which led the developers to not put their latest DLC for Furi on Xbox because their games just weren't performing well there. Microsoft seems to only want to promote Game Pass. So if you can't get in the Game Pass funnel as an indie, you're generally not going to get seen, and it's essentially creating a conflict of the lump sum that they get from Microsoft would need to outweigh potential sales for them to recoup costs on anything that they make. I have, for a very long time, been pro Game Pass and have said Game Pass is amazing for indies and it's a great value to the consumer. The concern would be if these reports are not anomalous. Let's just imagine that these reports are not anomalous because these are not the only developers to speak out, okay? One such developer said that Game Pass is one of the reasons the perceived value of indie games is a race to the bottom, according to a veteran developer, Jake Simpson of TNB Studios. Okay? You're creating this idea that spending money on a game, you shouldn't have to do that. Conceivably, indie games outside of these services might lose engagement as subscribers focus most of their attention on games they can access for free within the service. Okay, so you have to see they're creating a funnel, and you need to be in that funnel to get noticed. But when you're in that funnel, it's working against your ability to generate sales on that platform. And so if these examples and this feedback from developers is not anomalous, you will see indie titles avoiding Game Pass during their launch month, just as I predicted AAA titles are going to avoid Game Pass during their launch month. The industry runs on those first month sales. They do. And to cut yourself off from those could be extremely bad. And these can't be the only companies that are coming to these conclusions. I'm quite happy for all the indies to be removed from Game Pass. It keeps costs down for stuff I have no interest in. Well, I mean, if you think removing games from Game Pass is going to keep costs down, I don't think it will. If anything, it could drive costs up because now they've got less offerings and people might start canceling. Their first party isn't strong enough to compete in the traditional sales model, sad to say. Forza is the exception to the rule. Yo, big howdy, Toasty. The difference is that Game Pass already uses a well-established cloud service infrastructure. It's being indirectly funded by multi-billion-dollar enterprises out there. PC and Sony always promote indie. Microsoft indies are not usually front page. And Zubair is saying, not promote, create initiatives to get more developers. They need a program that tells me, if they need a program, it tells me they screw indies so much they don't want them there, don't want to be there. There is no evidence I have seen that supports Microsoft being a giant success in the coming years. Evidence tells me Game Pass will fail, unfortunately. They can always leave the Game Pass ecosystem as they already do. Okay, and if that happens, CB4 Omega, if there's an exodus from Game Pass, think of it like this. Do you honestly think that Microsoft's business strategy and business goals is aligned with and is congruent with all these random developers out there? Do you think that that's the case? The developer's goal is maximum exposure to ... maximize sales. Game Pass is at odds with that. If you throw yourself on Game Pass during your launch month, you're maximizing exposure and then limiting your sales. You are measurably decreasing sales. And then so the lump sum from Microsoft has to offset that. But if Microsoft is so fully invested in Game Pass, they may say, if you want to get seen, if you want people to know you exist on our platform, Game Pass is the way to do that. And you say, yeah, well, We don't want to do that. And then Microsoft's going to say, listen, we don't have to offer you nearly as much money because you won't survive over here without Game Pass. No one will know you exist. And according to the developers of Furi, if you're not a new game, you don't line up with the Game Pass strategy. So if you just want to stagger it by a month, let's say you're an indie title, let's say you're Death's Door, and you have a cracking first month, you just crush it. And then you're like, okay, it's been 30 days, let's jump on Game Pass. That will get our name in front of more people because tons of people have heard about how good we are, right? You might not want to do that because as word of mouth spreads and as reviews hit, you might make more sales. People are like, oh, hey, I heard that game was really good. I'm going to go buy that. So, but let's just say they want to do that. A month or two later, they want to throw themselves on Game Pass because they're getting ready to promote a DLC that's going to cost money. So you reinvigorate your game's popularity. Everyone's talking about it. And then a month later, you sell DLC for, I don't know, 10 or 20 bucks. Increasing sales, increasing revenue earned. But if Microsoft says, no, we only want new games, then that's not going to be an opportunity afforded to you. Sounds like Walmart bullying manufacturers to give them lowest prices or not be able to sell there. New PlayStation Plus now presents PlayStation as a good balance between a decent subservice and a constant release of high-quality games. The Ubisoft Classics catalog, hang on. The Ubisoft Classics catalog for PlayStation Plus will launch with 27 titles and will grow to 50 by the end of 2022. Valhalla, For Honor, Crew 2, Child of Light, Eagle Flight, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, and Far Cry 3 Remaster. They're buying Ubisoft. There's no frickin' way they're not buying Ubisoft. Game Pass subscribers, April 10 million, September 15 million, January of this year 18 million, and then January a year later 25 million. Okay, no. When we're saying Game Pass might be on a path to failing, Reaper, it's not that they're not generating tons of money, it's that it's an unsustainable trajectory. Do you understand? More and more people, more and more devs might start saying, we don't see the value in being on Game Pass during our launch month. We see it being a devaluation of all of our hard work and our product. Ergo, we don't want to be on there during launch month. What that leads to is a devaluation of Game Pass in and of itself. As I said just moments ago, do you honestly think Microsoft's goal with Game Pass is congruent with and in line with the goals of developers? I don't think so. Developers that would want this is what you're going to attract. Let me make a prediction. If this trend continues the way that it goes, do you know what games are going to really want to be on Game Pass? With games with tons of microtransactions. Why? Because they know all you've got to do is fill the funnel with players and the money will come. And Game Pass is a great funnel of players. You're going to attract the type of games that don't want to make their money on the front end sale with a great game, proven track record, whatever. Maybe they do a demo, maybe they do a tech test, maybe they do early access and it convinces everybody, oh my gosh, this game is phenomenal, right? Like they did with Elden Ring. Elden Ring was in front of the world so much before it launched, it convinced people that had never played a From Software game to buy it, right? So you're going to attract the type of games that say, listen, we're going to take it on the chin. We know during the launch month we're going to miss out on a ton of sales. Who knows? Forecasted maybe 1 million to 1.5 million sales that we're going to just take that on the chin. Microsoft's going to make that up a little bit. They're going to throw us a little bit of cheddar. We're going to make up some of that loss. Oh, and our game's riddled with microtransactions. That's what you're going to attract. They have enough internal devs to prop the service up. Indies leaving is not going to bury them. It's a combination of indies leaving Game Pass and AAA third-party titles leaving Game Pass. That's the issue. Devs already starting to dodge. Subs don't matter if the content providers avoid your platform. That's right. Like, you think Netflix is suffering just anomalously, or is it because they slowly started losing some of their best value assets? They lost all the Marvel content. Then they lost The Office. Then they just recently lost all the Star Trek stuff. Though Deep Space Nine's still on there. That contract probably has to live itself out, right? They lost big pieces. And just so happens that when that happened, Netflix is like, oh my gosh, we're having a drop in subscription. We're going to have to run ads on our lowest subscription, right? Why are they leaving though? I'm saying that they're going to. These reports coming out are not anomalous. These are not hit pieces against Microsoft. These are not hit pieces against Game Pass. It's companies saying, this just didn't work for us like we hoped that it would. Walking Dead canceled its show to get out of a contract with Netflix. Netflix's problem is they don't own those IPs. Okay, let's make another comparison. Netflix, very similarly to Microsoft, has spent a ton of money on originals. Ozark, Queen's Gambit. What was the other one they recently did? They've done a couple of original movies. The one with Ryan Reynolds, and then there was another one. They've done some original shows. They've done some original movies. They own tons of property now. They've got some great stuff. Microsoft's got some big property as well. Microsoft's got Halo. Microsoft's about to have Call of Duty, potentially. Yo, good morning, Abe. Yeah, they did some animation stuff. Yes. Yeah, Netflix has invested a ton in original content. And then they cancel it season 3 because it doesn't drive subs. Right. You talk about a quick way to kick people out the door. You get them in the door with some amazing show, and then, well, third season's not going to generate subs, so we cancel it. Well, you dummies, Netflix, you just created a funnel of people that aren't going to stay with you for very long. They come in and season 1, awesome, season 2, cool, and then, oh, no season 3. Well, then I'm going to unsub then. That's a terrible churn rate, I would imagine. It's not healthy. A lot of hypotheticals going on. Well, that's what you do when you're making predictions, D-Crew. That's what I'm going to do. I can't tell you what will happen. I can only say, this is what the market is saying. AAA title Outriders made no profit. They had reports of people canceling their pre-orders. They were on Game Pass. Outriders had its own problems, but I think Game Pass played a factor. Yo, what's good, Don? Lurking. What's up, man? Just here to say hi for a minute. Hope the stream goes well. Thank you, Don. So, you've got that element. Now you've got 2 to 3 different articles from different indie developers saying Game Pass is not all it's cracked up to be for indies. It isn't. We didn't sell anything. We didn't sell. It sells less and less on the platform. Season 3 is dumped because the contracts have increases in costs for the shows. Well, no, yeah, that's probably true too, Zubair. It's unsustainable for a couple of reasons. Number one, third season will generate less new subs. And then when you cancel that third season, you probably lose some of the subs you gained with the show. Right? That's such a terrible, unhealthy cycle for Netflix. I don't have any proof. I'm just analyzing what's being said. Like, that doesn't sound very healthy. You spend an exorbitant amount of money to launch a show. You get a ton of subs. You do season 2, and then you don't do a season 3 because, number one, you can't afford it. You won't make any money on it, so you cancel it. Well, now you're losing subs that you got for that show, potentially. Can't blame Game Pass for Outriders being a bad game. You didn't like it yourself. I played it an awful lot for not liking it, but thank you for speaking for me. Speaking of Ubisoft and Netflix, they're apparently partnered to do 3 animated series for Netflix. Far Cry and Splinter Cell are among the properties. That sounds dope. Outriders shot themselves in the foot. Launch was so bad it drove away paying customers. They went to Game Pass to try it out. Right? Like, if your game has any issues week 1, dude, Game Pass is going to be an absolute death sentence. An absolute death sentence. Well, installed this. I'm done. Look to Epic. They're slowly making a nice free game database. I have over 130 games that I never paid for. You got to quit using Outriders as an example. I played Outriders on Game Pass. Bought it 10 hours, quit playing at 30. Busted game. It's an awful lot of time invested in a busted game. D-Crew, thanks for jumping back into the member pool. Appreciate you, D-Crew. Revive, you guys have to understand the reason I'm using Outriders as an example. I am not using Outriders as an example of like Game Pass broke the game, Game Pass took profit away from them. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying in the gaming world, when you see a game on Game Pass during its launch week, years later being like, we didn't make any profit, you're going to consider that. Why? That game was highly marketed and had a great demo, great reception. It was the 7th most bought game on Steam just for pre-orders, okay? So, game companies are going to look at that. They're not going to look at the quality of Outriders. They're not going to look at the quality of Outriders. They're going to say, look, that game, for all intents and purposes, was set up to be a commercial success, and it wasn't. Patches, problems, glitches, sure. Plenty of games have those and make profit. Do you see the point that I'm making? You're getting stuck on like Outriders suck. That's why it didn't do well. You're missing the boat. Game companies aren't looking at that. Game companies are looking at a game that had a highly praised demo and was the 7th most purchased game as a pre-order in the Steam marketplace, launched during a drought, for all intents and purposes was set up to be a commercial success that would have then been complained about later. For sure, it had problems, but it was primed. How many games are a commercial success and they have tons of problems their first month? How many? Plenty. Plenty of games are commercially successful, even though their launch month is just an absolute just trip job. They're just tripping over themselves. Game companies are going to look at that and say, ooh, our day one patch isn't going to fix everything. Our day one patch isn't going to fix all the problems. We're launching with some bugs. We're launching with some glitches. I don't know, man. I don't know if we want to be in that try it before you buy it funnel. Okay, set Outriders to the side. You got multiple indie developers coming out and being like, man, Game Pass is not what you think it is. Game Pass is not doing what you think it does. It's driving sales down. And then if you want to come back later, update your game, do a DLC, or do some kind of a marketing push, Microsoft's like, no. We want to shove new games on Game Pass. That's it. And if you want to thrive on this platform, you need to be on Game Pass. It's the exact same thing that's going on with Netflix. All that matters is new. New show, new show, new show, new show. Drive the subs, drive the subs, drive the subs. Show gets to a 2nd and 3rd season, they're like, yeah, no. Yeah, no. Okay, so companies are going to look at that. Companies are going to say, okay, well, we got to spend development time and we got to spend hours and bandwidth making sure our game works on Microsoft. We have to go through Microsoft certification. We have to do all this stuff to be on a Game Pass funnel to sell less copies of our game. Well, let's just not do that. Do you honestly think what I'm saying is just I'm hating on Microsoft? No, it's a very distinct possibility that game companies look at that funnel and say, that's not healthy for us. That's not what we want to do. That's not what the indie company said. They did not say Game Pass was not good. They said they could not get on Game Pass a second time with the same game. They said fundamentally you need to be on Game Pass to get noticed. And then they said that the one game they most recently had on Game Pass sold no copies. Do you honestly think indies are going to look at that and be like, dude, sign me up for that? Look at what the guy from Days Gone said. Let's just take it off of Xbox for a second. Look at what the guy from Days Gone said. Days Gone has this surge of interest, surge of praise. Why? Because it's on a free subscription model. And he's like, okay, that's great, but if you want to support the game, buy it. The developers aren't looking at this subscription model and grinning ear to ear and saying, this is great for us. Why? Because the subscription models primarily have Sony and Microsoft's interest at heart. Like, primarily that's the case. What would be proof you are right? And what's the proof that you are wrong? As I'm hearing it, any indie not coming to Game Pass confirms you are right, but there's no way to prove you are wrong. It's not about proving that I'm right or wrong, Zubair. It's a prediction about what's going to happen in the future. For the same, okay, you can't prove me right or wrong that like AAA companies are going to avoid Game Pass during their launch month. Why? The economics of game launches, the sales garnered in the first month, conventional wisdom. You have an example of a game right now that didn't generate profit and happened to be on Game Pass, which you could say is anecdotal, but there's things in the industry saying, I'm predicting there's going to be a trajectory of big AAA titles avoiding Game Pass during their launch month. I can prove you right, says Eugene. There's less this year. Okay, so there's less AAA titles hitting Game Pass in their launch month this year. That could be considered proof of what we're predicting. And this right here, these indie companies speaking out and saying this, could be the beginning of indie titles avoiding the platform and saying, it's not good. It isn't good. They launched ID at Xbox in 2014. 3 years later, they pushed out Game Pass, and now that's all that matters to them is if you want to survive on our platform, you got to be on Game Pass. So I'm not necessarily saying I am right. When you make a prediction, you're saying I will eventually be right, right? Like if I tell you really, really bad weather and traffic reports, I'm predicting we're going to be late to the movie, okay? I'm not right at that moment, but all signs point to we're going to get to the movie theater and be like, yep, I was right. That's what I think is going to happen. Yeah, when's that V Rising game come out, Paul? Because I was going to play that one for first look. What AAA game is the example of Game Pass success for the game developer, not Microsoft? I'm asking how will we know if and when you're right? Oh, what proof? Okay, what will we see? Okay, Zubair, that's a good question. This is what I think we'll see. You will see indie titles launch, and they won't be on Game Pass because, well, hang on though, because there's indie titles that don't hit Game Pass, right? So how would that be proof? We would have to see. Yeah, no, so this is a good question. What would be the proof? Because there are plenty of indie titles that don't do that, right? Death's Door is an example of a game that didn't do that. I suspect this is their only move. They have to leverage, when it comes to the contracts or the incentives, their move is to not use it and to explain why. Yeah, I don't know, Zubair, because how would we know if more and more indie titles are saying no thank you to Game Pass? Unless they publicly state that. Unless they publicly state, we're not doing Game Pass because we don't think it aligns with our business goals. Like, they'd have to actually verbalize it and be like, yeah, no. The indie dev tried to get on Game Pass, but Microsoft passed? Well, but that's different because the game was already out, Reese's. I don't think you're necessarily, I'm not saying that indie games, let me qualify my prediction. It's not that indie games won't be on Game Pass or won't want to be on Game Pass. They don't want to be on there when they launch. So yes, hey, we're doing a big update. We're doing a big push. Can we throw our game on Game Pass? They're like, no, we only want new games. Don't you understand what they're exposing is? They're exposing that Microsoft's strategy is analogous to Netflix's strategy. New. Season 3, see you later. New. And then, oh, hey, our game's been out for a couple of months. It'd be great to throw you on Game Pass. We got a DLC coming out, and this would be great promotion for us, right? And Microsoft's like, no, we only want new games on Game Pass, which makes perfectly good sense. We would need a trend in the releases of new indie games on Game Pass versus independent. Your prediction is that AAA titles will come to Game Pass later? Yes. I think the best use of Game Pass is right before you're going to do DLC. Yeah. So, I don't think Elden Ring will ever do it, but like, let's say a month before Elden Ring's DLC comes out, they throw themselves on Game Pass. Why? A couple more million people try out the game, maybe, and they like it, and they're like, ooh, that DLC sounds really good. Elden Ring's a bad example because, generally speaking, I can't think there's a quantifiable percentage of people that are sitting on the fence that would fall in love with it, right? Wouldn't indies then follow the same pattern? Yes, I think indies would follow the same pattern. Yes. Yep. And then Microsoft could say, they could adjust the marketing, and they could say, listen, Game Pass is a fantastic funnel of games frequently hitting right before they do big updates and changes or whatever, and it's a great way to try out games before before you might want to spend any extra on them or something. I don't know. They'd have to come up with some really good corporate marketing spin for it. Elden Ring won't even be on sale digitally the first year. It's not coming to sub-services anytime soon. I was using it as an example, but yeah, I don't think it will either. From a Microsoft standpoint, though, do you think that they will pay out as much money as a day-and-date release? Well, that's exactly right. Do what Bungie did, pull DLC and expansions from Game Pass after letting you play them for months. F them. What do you mean, F them? Why did they owe you that content for free for forever? Isn't something that's been said multiple times this morning that Game Pass is a great opportunity for you to try something out? What you have a right to that game and everything they do for forever because you're paying Microsoft? Think about the logic of what you just outlined. I should be able to play that game, its expansions, and all of its stuff as long as I'm paying Microsoft. What? So as long as you're paying Microsoft, you should be able to access this Bungie game for forever. So there is our evidence. We see indies come to Game Pass later in their life cycle instead of day and date. Right. That's what I think is going to happen, Zubair. That's a more specific prediction. I think you're going to see more and more AAA and indie titles that are not owned by Microsoft. They're going to start kicking the can further down the road before jumping on Game Pass. They're not going to want to be on there day and date. Talking about Shadowkeep and Forsaken? I know what you're talking about. I used to cover the game exclusively. The expansion is 4 years old, idiot. Oh, you're calling me an idiot. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for hanging out here. Never again. I'm sure they'll lose 10 million subs if they lose day one third-party releases. That's the service driver and what people expect. Zubair, I think you start looking at how many indies ignore the platform altogether. Yeah, I think that's another indication. Think about this, Zubair. In 2014, Microsoft outlines ID at Xbox. Big, huge indie push. We're going to get behind indie titles. Indie titles. Wow, that sounds wonderful. That's great. And then fast forward to 2022. So we're 8 years in. And look how many indie titles don't go on that funnel. Is it because of the market? Is it too Western dominated? Is it because of Game Pass that launched 3 years after ID at Xbox? I don't know. The guy's mad about Forsaken, and Forsaken's not even in the game anymore. Who's the idiot? Yeah. I don't tolerate people that come in and like force me to talk about Destiny anyway. I always feel like I always feel like they have an angle. You can access PS Plus games forever once you claim it. Yeah, that's true. You don't... Well, no. Okay, but that's different than the libraries of games. Those libraries of games could update and change, and then I don't think you'd have access to them, Garrett. But they're all old games, so I don't see why they would bother doing that. Hey, this 7-year-old game's no longer available. I don't know if they would do that. In my opinion, there's too many indies on Game Pass. They could lose some. You don't need to make an indie push if indies already come to your platform. I think Xbox is just not indie friendly. I haven't seen any strong evidence contrary to that. I see Sarah Bond and Microsoft going after Gotham Knights. Going after Gotham Knights for what? Are we close to 300 likes? Today has been a very peculiar day. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. We need 30 more likes for 300 likes. We need another coffee order. How many new members do we have? 3 new members. Come on, let's get 2 more members. Let's round that out to 5. Game Pass multiplayer, then PS Now. Indies on Game Pass are wonderful. So many great Metroidvanias. Yeah, I mean, just recently they had Loot River and Unsold on there. So the issue is, I think the issue is having your business goals and Microsoft's business goals have to align. And I don't think, based on all of the research that I've done into profitability of games, sales in the first month, adding into the fact that most DRMs attempt to last for 2 months because that's when most of the game's copies are sold. So that's why you try to protect privacy as much as possible in the first 2 months. Okay, those windows of times, those economic realities, I don't know if it's sustainable for Microsoft to build something that's integral to their strategy that requires them to ask companies to do something that's contrary to their business strategy. I've given you all the likes you're going to get for one day. I feel like in 12 months we won't see so many day and date. They will follow Sony. Yeah, all the talk about how Sony needs to follow Microsoft, I actually think it's going to be the other way around. I think it's going to be the other way around. Rumor that Microsoft paid between 5 and 10 million to have Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not saying it's good for the developer, but I think money Microsoft is shelling out will benefit the developer more. Right, but so much of that money is for the fact that it's Marvel. Like, any Marvel property you're going to pay through the nose for, because the mouse is holding on to it. Sorry for doing this. You know what would work better? Trials is part of the subscription. Do you know what I'm saying? Can we just admit that? Like, imagine right now. Imagine you boot up Game Pass and that's what it is. Hey, you can try out Loot River or this other game for an hour. They would probably increase their sales. Like, Microsoft's strategy and the company's strategy would align. Microsoft cannot renegotiate on first-party day and date. I can't believe your poll is a thing. I played a game for free. Why in the frick will I part with my cash if the company doesn't value a dollar point to their game? Then neither will I. Did you see the Spiffing Brit Break live streaming? Posted some stuff in the numbers only earlier. It was super funny. No, I didn't look at it. Guardians of the Galaxy came a few months after launch. Most of the sales were already done. Right, he was drawing attention to the fact that Microsoft paid a ton of money to get Guardians. That's what he was drawing attention to. Trials as part of a subscription would not be good for us scrubby PC players. Guardians still didn't profit. That's tough because how much do they have to like? Is that because of all the royalty share and the licensing? You would have to think that that's related. Something happened with that game? Yeah, Avengers happened to that game. The confidence that people had in buying another Microsoft title that looked... not Microsoft title. A Marvel title that looked like that. That's what it was. It was Avengers. Avengers was a shadow over Guardians. Everyone was like, brother, no. I'm not buying another Marvel game. That Avengers game is a dadgum tragedy. I'm not spending another dime on a Marvel game. Line share went to Disney. Yeah, and then beyond that, how much goes to Disney before anybody else? Avengers kneecapped Guardians, 100%. Guardians was good. It was really good. It won awards. There were people saying it was their game of the year. I was like, I didn't agree with them. Returnal will always hold that year. 100%. 100%. Returnal holds that year. They didn't do enough to make it clear it wasn't related to Avengers. Yeah, like Tiny Tina's, everybody thought it was DLC. Yeah. Feels similar. Feels very similar. Avengers was such a massive disappointment. They've lost so much money on that game. We need 24 more likes for 300 likes. If you're new, if you're enjoying the show, if you're not logged in, do me a favor, log in, hit subscribe, hit like. That way you don't miss my content throughout the week. Consider doing a membership for $5 a month. It gets you into extra content, supports me directly. We do shows like this Monday through Friday. I am a safe for work broadcaster. A lot of people treat me like a video game podcast, throw me on in the background of their day. And you get live coverage from me all day of gaming stuff happening. So today's topic is Xbox Game Pass. Is it bad for indies? Reports coming out that it might be bad for indies. We're not drawing sharp conclusions. I'm making soft predictions about trends that I think we're going to see with the Xbox Game Pass catalog. We will be covering the Fall Guys live event announcement. We will then be going over to Reforge Radio for more gaming news. This channel is more topic-oriented. Reforge Radio is news-oriented, and we're going to kick that show off with the Fortnite Unreal 5 editor getting released to the public. That's potentially huge news for a lot of stuff. So we'll be covering that over there, amongst a ton of other news going on. I'm going to give you a quick sampling. Sega's doing some stuff. Diablo 3 is permanenting stuff. Skull and Bones might be closer to a launch date. Elden Ring player counts. There's a lot to cover that we can't cover here, because here we tend to stick to one topic. I tell you what, my blood pressure was acting up today, and I feel way better, but part of the reason I feel way better is I'm drinking twice as much water. I'm going to hit some advertisements. I'll be right back. Consider supporting any of the ways you can support the channel: ordering a shirt from 80s Tees, ordering coffee, becoming a member. At the very least, let's hit 300 likes. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'll be right back. Still more great conversation and coverage today. Don't go anywhere. Okay. All right, thanks guys for being here. We sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. We got a little spam because it's a real person watching the stream and they waited for me to walk away. I guess we didn't have any mods on duty. Is this image news? Like we've been able to see what trials will look like? Oh, is this an image? Is this a sample image? Download trial. Is this Photoshop or is this real? It's for Horizon Forbidden West. It looks like... Hang on, that's the wrong cap card. 3-hour full game trial included with your PlayStation Plus premium subscription. Download trial. Seems real. They say 2 hours. Yeah, that says 3 hours. So this is somebody... That's somebody probably photoshopping up a mock-up, because I thought they said 2 hours. Ads took me off live. Yeah, Creature, where you at, says Valiant. My guess is that game trials will also hurt game sales. How do you figure? Like, in what way is me getting to try a game gonna hurt sales? Like, you fill your funnel with more potential buyers, and they know for a fact whether or not they should buy it. Like, I feel like that's gonna lead to sales, not take away from sales. Because you're giving tons and tons of people the opportunity to confidently know. Think of it like this. What did we just talk about with indie titles? What did we just talk about? Well, I'm never going to buy an indie title. I don't know if it's any good. Well, guess what? Any indie title above $35 on Sony, if you're on that premium tier, you can try it out. Well, that's a ton more people potentially buying the game. Most games drop buggy or broken. You think it's the majority. You use the word most. You think most games across all platforms and genres, they all drop buggy and broken. Most of them. I've decided the process of fully upgrading your legendary gear in Horizon is dumb. I need to scrape testicle hairs off robot ice bears without using any ammo that might cause an explosion, or the hairs will burn off. It's not fun. Yeah, I thought some of the currency pursuit in there was a little rough, Zubair. It was a little rough. A game trial of Outriders would have killed it. Oh, for sure. Yep. Yeah. 100%. A game trial is not universally good for the developers, but it's universally good for you as a consumer. Like, it's universally good for you as a consumer to be able to try something before you buy it. That can't be, you can't spin that into a negative. There's no way. Unless you're like, oh, well, games are going to be scared to release and they're just going to stop releasing. Well, what difference does it make? Would you rather them release and be broken? That wouldn't make any sense. That wouldn't be an increased value to you. It'd be the opposite of an increased value. It'd be decreased value. You'd be like, oh, we're still getting games because they're not scared of being a demo. But then the games that are scared of being a demo are probably not worth your time to begin with. 11 more likes on the video, guys. Smash that like button. I just bought Elden Ring. I hope I enjoy it. Wish me luck. Good luck. The only sales this would hurt are the people who would have bought the game and not liked it, and this will engender goodwill with those customers, which will probably result in increased future sales. Yeah, their money's going to go to the right place. They try indie title A, doesn't like it. They try indie title B, they do like it. Well, guess what? Now they have money to spend on the right game. It sounds like you don't think the market will work out the ideal healthy version of Game Pass. Why don't we trust the devs, the platform, and the audience to maximize value? Well, I think it can get to a better place, Zubair, but they're going to have to make changes that might cause disruption. Like some of the stuff that Creature and I have had to do with the channels and the brand. We've had to do things that cause disruption and hurt real bad, but we're doing it because we're thinking super, super long term, right? Well, if you think of it in that respect, I think they're going to have to start to make some changes to make it a healthier ecosystem that will potentially hurt in the short term. People will leave the funnel. They'll be like, well, I'm not getting what I initially thought I was going to get, so I'm out of here. I want nothing to do with this as a feature. This is not what I signed up for. I thought I was going to get all these great new games, and slowly but surely that hasn't happened. I'm out of here. And so if they make that decision, then that will be leading to exactly what you're talking about, like a healthier ecosystem and a healthier relationship. But it doesn't mean that it won't hurt like a son of a gun, because they'll lose a ton of people. I don't think the current model is sustainable long term. I think you have a slow degradation, because the stuff that you're putting in will be less frequent. Their own delays are hurting them as well. Like Starfield getting delayed certainly isn't helping. Like, that's not helping. The Horizon trial image is included in today's PlayStation blog. Oh, really? Okay. Fortnite Unreal 5 editor released to the public. I like that. Yeah, let's try that. We concluded we need lead. We need a soft lead. I like the thumb. Our redirect privileges are still jacked up. That's been escalated, so hopefully they figure out what in the frick's going on. I mentioned to them that stuff that we did with the URLs, Creature. I was like, this might be related. This guy did this last week, and I don't know what he did. Wish you could just rent a game like back in the day. You can't get a reasonable answer. They just get confused. Streaming music didn't kill the music business, and it won't kill the gaming biz either. Eugene says, I trust the market to work it out. I just don't think that it will be this current version. Less day one releases across the board is all but guaranteed. I don't trust the publishers to not get greed. Oh, hang on. Eugene says, and then people who have been fed an unsustainable model will have to make a choice, willing to pay more or less. Swade says, I don't trust the publishers to not get greedy when they balance it out eventually, but it'll get ugly beforehand. Elden Ring sold more than Call of Duty Vanguard. Yeah, Elden Ring crushed it. Hey, we got a lot of people coming back in. Thanks for coming back in or showing up for the first time. We will be covering the Fall Guys announcement. We'll switch to that stream in a little while, and we'll just kind of ramp up. We'll spend about an hour discussing the game and what I think is coming and why. And if you've not been here yet today, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have smashed the like button so you don't miss my content. Thanks for being here. We want to know what you think at the top of the chat. Xbox Game Pass. Do you buy the games you enjoy after playing them? Sometimes and never are winning, and yes, all the time is losing. Most people are saying never. 48%, about half. 42%, a little less than half, are saying they sometimes buy the games they enjoy. I think it's getting a co-op mode. Horizon Forbidden West will feature an online store with DLC expansions, leaked United King's gaming board. Wait, Horizon's getting a co-op mode? How? Would you play as one of the guys? Because I thought they might do that. That's a continued tension that drives evolution, the greed of the devs versus the greed of the consumer. It's only a problem if there is some factor distorting the market, like anti-competitive behavior. Right. Yeah, and that's why I think the FTC is looking into some of these buyouts, because they're worried that's what's coming. That's a terrible idea. I wonder, what if the aggro spam and the aggression in Horizon... I don't know. What if that's why? What if it's that high because they knew eventually they were going to be adding co-op or something? I don't know. I'm just pure speculation on my part. Like, why would they want to do that? Because that would be a huge, huge shift and change in game style. Oh, so that image is from a Sony blog. That image that we showed you of Horizon Forbidden West with a 3-hour trial, that's from an official Sony blog. Curious how many of the sometimes people have done it like once every 4 or 5 games, or when they have to, Sean. I don't know if it's just me, but I haven't found a Game Pass game that's worth buying after it leaves, so I said no. No, that's a perfectly legitimate answer. That's a perfectly legitimate answer. The question would be, though, are there any of those that you would have bought if you couldn't have played them to completion? Like, would you have felt a draw to buy it because you were like, well, the game was good enough, and because it was good enough, I kind of want to finish it. I'll give them their $30, their $40, their whatever the cost of the game would be. Right? Like, is that a factor for you? Like, if you would have had to buy the game to finish it, would that have adjusted your outlook? Your jam is back. So your argument is the game costs millions more to make. Then why on Green Earth would you expect streaming under the same price points? Oh, comparing it to the music stuff he was saying? Co-op would be you play as a faction character, non-story, if you fight in the arena. The co-op makes itself. Yeah, maybe. I don't know why they would... Co-op in Horizon Forbidden West would be really interesting. I remember a lot of people have said they wanted like the Batman Arkham games to be co-op, and I played one mission with Robin that was like, no, I think you'd hate playing co-op with other people. You would just constantly get in each other's way. There's a mission that you play, and you go back into like this Western movie set facility, and you're up in the rafters and doing stuff, and man, Robin just kept getting in my way. I was like, I just don't know if this game would flow well co-op. Now, the combat and the fisticuffs on the ground, yeah, maybe. Co-op could just be for like a trial. So many of the missions are with an NPC. That is true. You're commonly going through these areas with another NPC character. I still believe Game Pass is fine for most indies, says Robert. It's only a problem when the indie makes a hit. And at that point, you should use Game Pass for the next title. Or shouldn't, I think is what you meant to say. Yeah, but the people that we were pulling quotes from today, they weren't saying that, oh, it's bad if it's a hit. They were saying it hurts our sales. You don't sell anything because everyone can just try it on Game Pass. A game with a 7.8 user score on Metacritic sold basically nothing on Microsoft's platform because it was on Game Pass. It worked for Ghost of Tsushima. Okay, but it worked for Ghost of Tsushima in areas where they built entirely around that idea. I don't know about going around the open world of Ghost of Tsushima with another person with me. I don't know about that. Tsushima has co-op and it's awesome. They definitely would not add co-op to the main game. It would be its own thing. Yes, that we're in agreement with. It would be a separate thing. I can't see playing through the main game. Although Eugene makes a good point. Much of the main game in Forbidden West, you have somebody with you. And a lot of the missions in Tsushima, you have somebody with you. But the combat in Tsushima, I just don't know. I feel like you'd be stepping on each other's toes. Totally off topic, but I got Paw Patrol game on the PlayStation for the little nephew. Surprisingly well developed for little kids. It takes into account the kids are blanking stupid. Have you considered doing reviews of games for 5-year-olds? Eugene says, they're basically saying it's Game Pass or bust, and then Game Pass isn't even that great because you get no conversions. What indie devs? Just one? Many? Or? Sounded to me like it was 2 to 3 different indie devs were saying that it's not it's not having the effect on indie titles that you would hope for. I don't think these indie devs are doing like hit pieces. I think they're saying, listen. It's not having the intended effect. It's creating a race to the bottom. It's creating customer expectations that's what indie titles are. Fast forward 5 years, and what do you think the Xbox ecosystem and the Xbox consumer thinks about indie titles? What do they think about them? What do they think? These are just free games I get all the time. They're just constantly here. Just an ever-flowing funnel of indies. That's a devaluation of indies. I'm not saying that that's bad or wrong. I'm saying if that continues, indie titles are going to think long and hard before they hop on that platform. They're like, well, I don't know about that, man. People just look at an indie title over there like a free appetizer. It's just something you can fart around with. Now, I don't want to get into a big Sony versus Xbox thing, but think about it. If you're selling your indie for $35 to $40 on PlayStation, how many more sales are you going to get because people can try the game? And if your game is good, how many indie titles have you guys watched me play and you're like, my gosh, that was a good little game, Lono. That was an impressive little game. Oh, wow. What's the name of that game, Lono? You see what I'm saying? And that's just me randomly hitting my finger on the boom. That hurt. And that's just me randomly playing a game. Imagine if you could do that with every game in that pricing funnel. Now, obviously, the 20-something indies won't be able to take advantage of that. I'm curious if Sony reaches down and says, "Oh yeah, even if you're $20, we'll do it if you want to opt in. We're gonna make everybody 35 and up do it, but we'll let you opt in if you're $20 and you wanna be a part of that funnel." The day after the original iPhone launched, the games on the store cost $10. They very quickly raced down to 99 cents and then free to play. Free to play with in-app purchases, right? And those games have ads and heavy microtransactions. Why do you think Microsoft is potentially looking at putting advertisements into their Game Pass games? There's a reason for that. There's 100% a reason for that. The problem is that Game Pass is being sold as a pass to play all of your favorite games, not a place to play a demo and buy if you want. Did you see? I didn't see that. You retracted it. So a paid subscription to just have a demo or a paid subscription to have the entire game it's available. Is that really a comparison for the consumer? Yeah, you want to know why it's a comparison, Jake? Because it's not a comparison. Sony isn't going to give you a select game to try every now and again. Every game at $35 or higher, you can play a trial to see if you like it before buying. It's a massive value that you get because Sony's going to build that infrastructure. It's not a comparison because you don't get every game for free on Game Pass. You get select games for free, and based on everything we've gone over this morning, that's not exactly good for that developer. What's better for the consumer and the developer? Your ability to try something before you buy it, or your ability to randomly play free games? Like, which do you think is just more balanced and healthy? Yeah, every game above $34.99, right. Like, You can do this. You 100% can do this as a consumer. You can look at Sony's offering and be like, that's a joke. Why am I paying for that? Well, consider the fact that you're paying for a bunch of other stuff and they're throwing in the trials as an extra added bonus. Do you want to know why they're throwing in the trials? They're not throwing in the trials for you to pick that prescription level. That subscription level is got way more in its corner than that. They're throwing that in because they know they'll get more money from you. Track with me here. Track with me here. They are targeting their biggest spenders with an opportunity to give them more reasons to spend. Hey, our biggest spenders, the people that want all 700 games in this library, they want everything they can get their hands on, they're going to be our biggest spenders. They're going to be at premium. Trials is a great way to get more money from them, because they're going to try games and spend more money. You're paying for the trials? No, you're not. No, if you look at the pricing breakdown, you're primarily paying for like doubling the backlog of what you can play. Trials is thrown in as like a benefit, and I'm telling you right now, they're throwing in trials not to get you to subscribe. They're throwing in trials because they know the consumer type that's going to pick premium. They know the target audience that will pay for PS Premium. They're the ones that will spend more money in a trials environment. That's why they're doing it. You've got it backwards. It's not about getting people to subscribe for trials. It's about getting more money from people at the premium level. Not a bad take. What's this? Don't be against Sony's PlayStation Plus Premium relaunch. I don't want to read through that right now. Mr. Beast called out record labels over the weekend for DMCA BS and said, let content creators expose others to their artists and music. In as much words, full public tweet, not just a video jab. So he said what I've said for years. Been saying it for years. Just make me institute a plugin so people can know exactly what I'm listening to and where they can buy the album or listen to it. In the early days of Xbox Live Arcade and the PS Store, demos were required. I don't recall why those stopped. As I was saying, you can 100% turn your nose up to PlayStation Plus and be like, I don't want anything to do with that. That's a joke. Xbox Game Pass is a much better deal. That's totally fine. My prediction is one is built to last. It's built to last. Think about what people... I want you to think from the dev's perspective. Just take yourself out of the equation, okay? Stop thinking like a gamer who's trying to pinch every penny, okay? Stop thinking like that. You're supposed to do that, by the way. I'm not denigrating you. You should be pinching your pennies and spending them well, okay? So I want you to think like a developer. Which platform do you think is going to be better for your bottom line? Which platform? A platform where you can measurably see in instances of other indie titles that when you're on the Game Pass funnel, you don't sell copies of your game. Okay? That's one funnel. Great exposure. Minimal to no conversions. Okay? Here's another funnel over here. A funnel of consumers who are willing to pay the highest premium. They're high-spending consumers, and your game can be tried by them and then subsequently bought if they really like it. Which funnel are you more interested in as a developer? Like, number one, yes, the Sony funnel means you've got to bring the goods. You got to be able to justify a $35 price point. You've got to be able to have a good enough game so if they try it out, they actually want to buy it. So it puts pressure on the developer for sure, but something I've noticed with indie titles is they seem to be more polished and more well-rounded than some of the bigger titles anyway. How many indie developers have come out and said they're not making money off the Game Pass? A handful have said that they're seeing it having negative effects on the market. It's creating a race to the bottom. It creates a lack of sales. I'm not saying all indies. I'm just saying look at the difference. I agree with Lono. Game Pass won't last. I saw this last year. That's why I'm building a new PC. Xbox won't make it. I like the Series X, but there won't be another after that. Well, I don't know about all that. The idea is if they have enough disposable income to pay for trials, then they probably have more than enough money burning a hole in their pocket. Yeah, they're high-spending consumers. Yeah, they're high-spending consumers, so trials is going to be very, very good. It's going to be great for Sony. It's going to be great for devs. Am I allowed to say that Furi wasn't appealing to a lot of people, though? You can say that, Porkto. But as time went on, it sold less and less on the Xbox, and the presence of Game Pass might have been because of a lack of exposure. Furi was never on Game Pass. So it's... Look at it from two perspectives. I want you to look at it from two perspectives. One developer had an experience of launched in 2016, and then over the years it sold less and less and less on the Microsoft platform, to the point that it sold 1/3 of what it sold on the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch isn't really known for indies the way that Microsoft is with ID at Xbox. Okay, so the presence of Game Pass hurt Furi, because Furi wasn't in that funnel. Furi saw a decline in sales over time, sold less and less and less. Then, same developer has another game that they put on Game Pass, and it sells no copies because it's free on Game Pass. So they have two examples of, like, you're either on Game Pass to get seen, which means very little to no sales, or you're not on Game Pass and you don't get seen and your sales decrease over time. It's sold year after year on all the other platforms just fine. You have to ask the question, what was the reason for the decline in sales for Furi as it came out a year before Game Pass came out? You could say, well, it's a Western market problem. PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch and the PC market have a stronger foothold in an Asian market, and Furi appealed more to Asian gamers. Yeah, I mean, you might be right. It might be completely unrelated. But as I said earlier, an indie developer has two things that it wants. It wants maximum exposure for maximum sales. And Xbox offers one. They offer them maximum exposure. How many people downloaded and installed Loot River or Ensouled? Probably a ton. The art style was good. They released at the same time, right there at the top of Game Pass. Maximum exposure. And none of that converts into a reason for the person to purchase the game. So it works against total sales. So that total sales loss needs to be offset by Microsoft. And if Microsoft's vested interest in, well, we want games on Game Pass. That's our primary focus. That's our primary funnel and our primary business strategy. Okay, don't you think they're going to make it really, really hard for you to not be on Game Pass? And that means they could start offering you less. Well, I mean, your projected exposure and sales on our platform ain't going to be very good without Game Pass. And then they're going to offer them less money. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying that's a likely outcome. Because they both have mutually exclusive business goals. Microsoft wants Game Pass to be amazing, and they want as many people in that funnel as possible. And developers want to sell as many copies of their games as possible. How do you meet in the middle? How? You have to be paid a lump sum from Microsoft to offset what you won't sell on their platform. Game Pass growing doesn't mean it will last. Plenty of services keep growing and then completely crash. Yeah, I mean, Netflix was growing and then it's in trouble. Yeah. My reason's even lighter than that, creature. Because they changed it for the third time. Hold up, Nintendo's known for indies just the worst way possible. Ever since the Wii and the DS, the online shop has had a bajillion shovelware titles. Only Steam can compare with it. That's what I mean. Like, I don't think Nintendo's known for, like, being a great indie market and indie funnel. Personally. That's subjective to me and my experience. But I don't feel like the indies are like the fact that the Nintendo Switch Furi sold better on the Nintendo Switch just seems crazy to me. It's like, is that where you go to play indie titles? I mean, most people are playing them on PC, I would imagine. Predictions for the Fall Guy announcement: free to play, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, all launching in the summer or today. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I should probably make sure my my version of Fall Guys is updated. My Xbox is plugged in Y. Oh, Halo. Halo. That's what we played last. Guys, we need one more like for 300 likes. Come on. Let's do it. Let's do it. This has been a solid day for... This isn't really a big news thing. We just kind of made this one up. The way I see it is PlayStation going after trials and not full games is the way to go. If we start seeing 90% of players getting first and second level trophies, and then we see 5% get level 3 trophy, we'll see an additional market point for consumers. This will show the industry what people want and what's unacceptable in the industry. The Sony fanboys really want Game Pass to fail? I don't want Game Pass to fail. I like Game Pass. I have Game Pass. I've said for a long time Game Pass is great for indies. And then I read 3 different articles that made me think, maybe not. Like, do you understand? I have said for a very, very long time that Game Pass is great. It's a great value. It's great for indies. I told my friend who got a brand new Xbox, make sure and get Game Pass. It's a fantastic value. You'll have more games than you can shake a stick at. And I've always said it's great for indies. And then I read 3 different articles that are all giving different perspectives on, like, yeah, maybe not. I like it. I have it. I use it. You know what I mean? We're going to start trying to cover Game Pass games over on Reforge First Look to be like, hey, here's a brand new title. Here's a brand new title. Just hit Game Pass. You know? Netflix's problem was that they were focused on new numbers and not member retention. They should have pivoted some time back, and they didn't, which is why they're failing now. Game Pass seems similarly focused. Right now, Creature says it just isn't. It's bad for gaming no matter how good it is for gamers. Yeah, the dilemma I think you're going to run into is, and I've talked about this before, is when something is exceptionally good for consumers, that doesn't mean it's good for the industry. It can be damaging to the industry if you're not careful. PS Now was a wash, but Game Pass is fine and will only get better. Hey, Mo, as a thought experiment, let's say my prediction ends up being right. That fewer indies and fewer AAA third parties land on Game Pass during their launch month. Day and date becomes a less common thing. Because Microsoft can't force developers to do that, okay? They can't. Let's just say I'm right and that happens, Mo. What do you think Microsoft would need to do if that happens? Would they need to adjust, or would you be okay with that? A significant element of that value point, going away. People like Game Pass because they no longer have to risk their money on games they might not like. Elden Ring looks great, but I don't know if I would like it after playing it. Then I'm out $60. It's going to be more and more, but let's just say you're right. Yeah, let's just say I'm right. Just for the sake of argument, Mo, if I end up being right and indies and AAA studios are like, dude, Game Pass is not good for day and date. You don't want to do it. You want to do it later. What would Microsoft's pivot and plan be? That's your take on Microsoft being a sleeping giant? Do you still feel that way? Man, I don't know. Because Game Pass is really integral to that, and if Game Pass starts to struggle, then I don't know about it being a sleeping giant. They still might be a sleeping giant with xCloud. That infrastructure is good. Play Anywhere is good. Having an ecosystem that's basically everywhere is good. So, I don't think Microsoft's in any sort of trouble. I still think they can be the sleeping giant that I sense they are. I just think Game Pass has to evolve. I think Game Pass is like, let me give you another analogy. This is what I think Game Pass is like. I've said this before. I worked in the cell phone industry, and in the cell phone industry, there was a time where they just wanted to get people on the cell phone in the subscription funnel. So they gave you a ton of free stuff. Free card charger, free case, free everything. You didn't pay for the phone. They literally, AT&T, Singular, all those companies, they just took it on the chin. They're like, we can lose all that money up front. We'll get it back on the subscription of the cell phone, right? Eventually, that changed. Eventually, they were like, no, you're hooked. A cell phone's so integral to your life now, we don't have to give you free stuff. You're either going to be on our subscription funnel or Verizon subscription funnel. So yeah, we want to make money on the card chargers and the cases, and even the phones themselves were no longer free. Why? Well, tech was advancing, Samsung making better phones, they're charging more for the individual phone cost, and so AT&T's like, okay, well, we'll give you $150 off, but the base value of the phone varies depending on who made it and what all features it comes with, right? And so consumers were really irritated about that, but it was like, well, what are you going to do? I think similar things will happen here. I think Xbox went crazy, like, oh man, pour the value on, fill the funnel. Do you want to know why? If they have to walk back how often big AAA titles in indies land day and date, do you know how many people won't cancel their subscription because they're not paying attention? They'll still make a ton of money. Do you not notice they are looking for more? Activision Blizzard was hard to pass up. Why not buy their own? Still looking for others eventually. They will have more stuff on there. Right, they'll have their own stuff on there, Mo. That's exactly right. I don't think Microsoft is asleep to what we're talking about. It's why they're buying up studios. Because then it's like, you're going to be on Game Pass. You're ours. Microsoft messes up studios it purchases. Please tell me one studio they've made better. I can't answer that. The only way Game Pass Netflix comparison holds water is if EA, Ubisoft, Activision, etc. start their own submodels and take themselves off Xbox. The trying before buying argument is null and void when every game above a price will have a trial before buying, instead of Xbox has a section which they can do deals on the back end. Sony just said everyone has to do it. I'm not sure what the point you're making, Ant. Is it enough to keep me sub for 12 months? Well, that's one of the reasons they try and get you to do the 12-month pre-purchase, right? You do the 12-month pre-purchase, and then they got you for the whole year. Mo says, stop living in the past. Nobody's living in the past. I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm saying this doesn't sound sustainable. Indies aren't going to like this platform. Indies are going to say no to this platform. They're going to say, no thanks. They basically, the only way you're going to get exposure is through Game Pass, and Game Pass is terrible for sales. If you want to wait a couple of months and go on Game Pass and try and line it up with a DLC release, they're going to tell you no. Their strategy centers around new titles. Wonder how many people canceled after Starfield delay? Right. No, good point, Cliff. Good point. I saw your prediction about Fall Guys 2, Cliff. I think you're making the same prediction I am. Free to play. It's going to hit Switch and Xbox. If that happens and it's this week, then we'll do private matches this Friday night. I'll have Madam sitting here with me and we'll take turns playing. That'll be a freaking riot. That'll be so good for member push if we can do that. I want to hit 600 members so bad. Who's saying Xbox bought those companies to improve them? What's to say they aren't saving them from having to shut down or just going to the competition? Both are more valid reasons for buying them. I think what they're doing is they're buying them because they want them for Game Pass. Like I said, I don't think Microsoft is immune to what we're talking about. I don't think they're oblivious. I think they know long-term companies were going to get wise. Think of it this way. Do you think Microsoft was oblivious to the fact that games that were going on Game Pass weren't converting very well? That's why they trot out some number, but, well, people on Game Pass tend to spend more money. That's investor speak. Show me a percentage. The average Game Pass holder buys a game after playing it this percentage of time. They don't trot that number out. They just say they spend more money than the average player. Well, of course they do. They're already spending more money because they're buying Game Pass. So I don't think that Microsoft was oblivious to that reality. Listen, these developers are going to get wise to the fact that this isn't really healthy for them. They got a lump sum, and then it murdered their sales. So we need to start buying up our own studios so Game Pass always has a healthy offering. That's what they're doing. We want Blizzard Activision. We want Bethesda. We want stuff to put on Game Pass because we're not going to have it in a couple of years because a lot of these developers are going to be like, well, that wasn't a very good deal. I can 100% see Ubi being a Sony dev, especially as they are only AAA doing VR with PSVR 2 coming Ubisoft Plus. Yeah, the Ubisoft Plus announcement and Ubi constantly talking about how they're looking to get bought out. Yeah, I think it's Sony. Who's going to be our second coffee order of the day? We have a light roast and a dark roast. Use that coffee command. Come on. Let my wife and kiddos ship you some coffee. Let's hit 2 orders at least for the day. We've got 3 new members inching closer to 600. 3 new members. That puts us at like 514 members. It's a shareholder speak for Microsoft, but not for PlayStation. When did PlayStation say that? If PlayStation said that, I would say the same thing. Yeah, that's investor speak. Oh, people on our subscription service tend to spend more money. Oh, come on. That's investor speak. If Sony came out and said, people on our premium tend to buy more games after trials, look at this chart, that's what I'm asking for from Microsoft. We should just sell the kids' drawings. You just throw in the coffee as a bonus. Buy the drawing, get the coffee. Yeah. Phil Spencer will make Activision better, but their track record says otherwise. Yeah, if you're not a real big coffee drinker, just order some coffee. You're really ordering my kids' drawings, and we'll throw the coffee in as a bonus. Oh, you think the virtuous circle crap? Yeah, but you know what's funny, Mo? You know what's funny? Sony backed up the virtuous circle with numbers. They invested 19% more in their developers from 2017 to 2022. They saw a 17% increase in sales. And you can look at the developers growing in size. How is that investor speak? Gorilla, Sony Santa Monica, these companies like, we're growing. Naughty Dog, yeah, we're growing. We're expanding. That's not investor speak. That's tangible evidence. Some generic claim about like people on our subscription service tend to spend more money. Well, no, of course. They're already spending more money. You didn't say anything. It's not virtuous cycle. They call it virtuous circle. Yeah, you got companies doubling in size. All right, I got to change the featured thing. We want to be over there an hour beforehand for this Fall Guys thing. Let me get a tweet ready. And then in the Discord as well. Okay, tweet. Okay. I've got my cards on the table with this Fall Guys thing. What are your predictions for the Fall Guys game? Big announcement today. Covering it live. Come tune in. Send now. Okay, we'll hit the Discord with an announcement. It's Virtuous Cycle. It's Virtuous Circle. The article I read the other day said Virtuous Circle. Unless theirs was a typo. Oh no, Virtuous Cycle. See, I'd always said Virtuous Cycle, and then I read that article the other day and it said Virtuous Circle, and I was like, oh, I've been saying it wrong all this time. I've been saying Virtuous Cycle for weeks. I've been saying it for weeks. And then I read an article that said Circle, and I was like, huh? All right, Virtuous Cycle, sorry. I never argued publishers want to be in Game Pass. I did Game Pass will be so great that they're going to be a waiting list to get in. I received my coffee over the weekend, says Dr. G-Nade. I will attest that it's really good coffee. The drawing was awesome as well. Thanks to you and the fam. Thank you, Dr. G-Nade. There's a reason right there to order some coffee, chat. There's your reason right there. All right, I'm going to shut down the TikTok stream, and we're going to shift gears to the Fall Guys stream. We're going to get ready. I want to talk to you guys about this game, why I think it's so good, why I think it's coming to... Let me do this. Fall Guys, big announcement. Prediction. Why. When. What we will do. Okay, I'm giving myself a quick outline. All right, let me grab my phone. Give me 1 second. Okay. Subs is better than sales. Yeah, thank you for admitting that. Better for Microsoft. That's the issue. That's the issue I've been trying to drive this morning. I like Microsoft and I like Game Pass. But you can't deny that subs being better than sales is 100% true for Microsoft, not for the company. Okay, hide chat. I know, making a joke. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I was trying to drive home. Is like, man, I like Microsoft and I like Game Pass. I think they've made some really good decisions, but their business interests are at odds with the company's interests that they're putting on the sub service. Microsoft wants more subs. The companies want to sell as many titles as possible. Okay, those things are mutually exclusive. All right, give me a second. I'll be right back, and we're gonna stream this announcement. I'm gonna redirect, but I've been drinking so much water. I'll be right back. Okay. All right, we're gonna do a redirect to the new stream, okay? That link in chat's where we're going. Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be our coverage of the Fall Guys big announcement. It's not live yet. It'll be in this stream about 40 minutes from now if you want to skip ahead if you're watching the VOD. I am going to open up the video, though, with my predictions. I'm going to say, here's my prediction about what's coming. Here's why. I think there's been a lot of clues and some hints as to what's coming. When will it hit? And what will we do here on the channel as a result if, in fact, I get what I want and my prediction comes true? If you're watching this as a past broadcast, hit subscribe and the bell button. That way you don't miss my shows. Just this morning, we discussed Xbox Game Pass. Is it good for indies? I'm actually going to bring everybody over right now with the redirect